Chapter 126. Ji Tianxing had a bad premonition when he saw Lu Mingyang appear with the Black Deacon. He immediately understood that this was all part of Ji Ling's scheme. He and Ji Ku were both tricked by Ji Ling, and Jian Yu and Lu Mingyang were her accomplices. At this moment, the Black Deacon walked to the middle of the field and shouted angrily, "Stop! The disciplinary deacon is here. Don't you dare be so arrogant." If the disciplinary deacon had come a moment later, Ji Tianxing would have killed Ji Ling. However, since the disciplinary deacon was here, he no longer had the chance to kill Ji Ling and could only reluctantly stop. Ji Ling sneered in her heart, but pretended to be on the verge of death. She reported to the disciplinary deacon, "Deacon, you came at the right time. Ji Tianxing, that bastard, wanted to kill me. Deacon, you must seek justice for me." The disciplinary deacon looked at Ji Ling and asked in a low voice, "What's going on? Why are you here, and why are you killing each other?" Without waiting for Ji Tianxing to explain, Ji Ling spoke first. "Deacon, this is what happened. Ji Tianxing and I both came from Qingyan Kingdom, and we had a grudge in the secular world. After we entered the sect, we both entered the storm courtyard. He always wanted to take revenge on me, but never had the chance. Coincidentally, I have a niece called Ji Ku who is cultivating in the White Dew courtyard. Ji Tianxing tricked her to come here and used her as a hostage to force me to submit to him. After I heard the news, I brought Senior Jian Yu to save Ji Ku. I didn't expect that Ji Tianxing, that evil bastard, would injure Ji Ku and push her down the cliff. After the matter was exposed, he even wanted to kill me and Jian Yu. Fortunately, Deacon, you came in time. Otherwise, we would be dead." Ji Tianxing was so angry that he was about to go crazy. His body emitted a thick, murderous intent as he stared at Ji Ling. "Ji Ling, you despicable bastard. You're worse than a pig or a dog. You clearly tricked me and Ji Ku into coming here. You were the one who personally pushed Ji Ku off the cliff. How dare you slander me and slander me? How can there be such a vicious and shameless bastard in this world?" Ji Ling sneered and explained, "Ji Tianxing, you're really funny. Ji Ku is my niece. I've always doted on her. How could I push her off the cliff? Even if you want to quibble and slander me, please use your brain." Hearing Ji Tianxing's words, the disciplinary deacon frowned and gloomily looked at Ji Tianxing. Just then, Jian Yu crawled out of the woods. He was covered in blood and mud, looking as miserable as Ji Ling. When he saw the disciplinary deacon, it was as if he had seen his savior. He quickly endured his injuries and bowed. "Disciple Jian Yu greets deacon. I can testify for Ji Ling." After Ji Ling received the news, he invited me to come to Jade Sword Peak to save his niece. Unfortunately, when we arrived, we saw Ji Tianxing pushing Ji Ku off the cliff. We were so angry that we wanted to capture Ji Tianxing and hand him over to the sect for punishment. I didn't expect Ji Tianxing to be so strong. He actually wanted to kill us, to silence us, and cover up the evidence. "Deacon, you saw it with your own eyes when you came just now. Everything this disciple said is true." At this moment, Lu Mingyang hurriedly added, "Deacon, I can also testify for Ji Ling. Ji Tianxing has a personal grudge with him and has always been looking for an opportunity to take revenge on him. Moreover, Ji Tianxing stole a spirit fruit from the spiritual herbal garden on the second day after entering the Fengyan courtyard. He was punished by Deacon Han of the Fengyan courtyard. A despicable and sinister person like Ji Tianxing is simply a disgrace to our sect. Now that he has committed such a heinous crime, I hope Deacon will punish him severely." Ji Ling, Jian Yu, and Lu Mingyang were in cahoots. They all insisted that Ji Tianxing killed Ji Ku and wanted to silence him. Ji Tianxing was so angry that he wanted to go berserk, but he couldn't defend himself. He had no evidence and no one to testify for him. Of course, the disciplinary deacon wouldn't believe him. After a while, the disciplinary deacon asked about the situation and ordered in a deep voice, "Ji Tianxing, Ji Ling, and Jian Yu, this matter is very serious. I will definitely investigate it thoroughly. Before the investigation is completed, the three of you have to follow me back to the disciplinary hall to await your punishment. In addition, I will immediately send orders to send people to search for Jiku at the bottom of the cliff. After that, the disciplinary deacon led everyone away from Jade Sword Peak and returned to the disciplinary hall at the peak of Towering Sky Peak. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ling, and Jian Yu were locked up in 3 quiet rooms in the discipline hall, awaiting the discipline hall's investigation and judgment. Not only that, but the disciplinary hall also sent people to search for Jiku's whereabouts at the foot of Jade Sword Peak. Half a day quickly passed. In the disciplinary hall's 3rd quiet room, Ji Tianxing was sitting in a corner, expressionlessly looking up at the small window on the wall. This quiet room was only 3 meters in radius. There was nothing in the room, not even a chair. The floor and walls were all made of dark brown boulders, and there was an iron window the size of a human head on the wall. Through the iron window, one could only see a palm-sized piece of sky outside. Night had already fallen, and the sky outside the window was gloomy. Ji Tianxing had been sitting in the cold corner for an entire afternoon. His mood had long since changed from anger and irritation to indifference and helplessness. He knew the truth of the matter and had repeatedly told the disciplinary deacon. However, the Sky Pillar sect's rules were strict, and the disciplinary deacon wouldn't believe his one-sided story. Before the matter was thoroughly investigated, the only thing he could do was obediently stay in the quiet room and wait for the disciplinary hall's judgment. He had long since made up his mind that after this matter was over, he would find an opportunity to kill Ji Ling and take revenge. At this moment, he was most worried about Jiku, but there was nothing he could do. He could only silently pray for Jiku. Cuckoo, nothing must happen to you. You must not die. I will definitely clear your name and avenge you by killing Ji Ling. I swear. The quiet room was deathly silent, and time seemed to pass very slowly. After an unknown period of time, someone opened the door to the quiet room. A black-robed deacon walked into the room and looked at Ji Tianxing with an indifferent expression. He said in a deep voice, "Ji Tianxing, come out." Ji Tianxing immediately stood up and anxiously asked, "Sir Deacon, have you found Jiku? How is she?" The deacon glanced at him and coldly said, "Jiku isn't dead, but she's on the verge of death and unconscious." Ji Tianxing finally let out a sigh of relief and muttered, "It's good that she's not dead. I knew Cuckoo was lucky and wouldn't die like this. Come with me," the deacon ordered in a deep voice. "Where to?" Ji Tianxing subconsciously asked. "Has the disciplinary hall finished their investigation and wants to let me out?" The deacon looked at him expressionlessly and said in a deep voice, "The matter hasn't been completely investigated, but it's basically confirmed that you murdered your fellow disciples. However, we still need to wait for Jiku to wake up before we can make a final conclusion. Before Jiku wakes up, the disciplinary hall has decided to imprison you in the Dark Wind Cave in the back mountain. You should properly reflect on your actions." "What? That's impossible," Ji Tianxing immediately said anxiously. "It was clearly Ji Ling who plotted against me and Jiku. Jiku and I are good friends. How could I harm her?" "Cut the crap," the deacon coldly said. "You don't have any evidence to prove your innocence, so you must abide by the disciplinary hall's investigation. Come with me to the Dark Wind Cave now." Chapter 127. The night was dark and the wind was howling. Ji Tianxing was escorted by the black deacon to the back of the mountain and into a dark cave. The cave was slanted and extended underground. It was deep and winding. Every 30 meters, there was a stone lamp on both sides of the cave wall that was lit. The stone lamp was an ancient origin artifact. It was lit by a formation, but the light was weak. The dim yellow light could not illuminate the cave, so Ji Tianxing could not see what was going on inside the cave. 15 minutes later, the black deacon escorted him into the deepest part of the cave. In front of him was a dark cliff. Layers of brown rocks could be seen at the bottom of the cliff. To the left of the cliff was a dark and cold stone room. Ji Tianxing was imprisoned in this stone room. Before leaving, the black deacon closed the heavy black iron door and locked it with a large chain. "Ji Tianxing, stay in the Dark Wind Cave and reflect on your mistakes. Don't even think about escaping. If you dare to escape, you will be executed on the spot when we catch you." After saying this, the black deacon turned and left. His figure quickly disappeared into the darkness. Tianxing stood in the cold stone room. His hands gripped the iron bars of the black iron door. He shouted unwillingly, "Deacon, I have been framed. As long as you save Jiku, the truth will be revealed." However, the black deacon walked further and further away, completely ignoring him. After a long time, the dark wind cave fell into a dead silence. Tianxing let go of his hands and sat on the stone bench in a daze. There were only two things in the dark and cold stone room. There was an ancient stone lamp on the wall and a rough stone bench in the corner. Other than that, there was nothing else. The ground was covered in dust. Footprints were left behind when one stepped on it. No one knew how long it had been since someone was locked in this stone room. Tianxing did not know how long he would be locked in here. Maybe 2 or 3 days, or 2 or 3 months. The key to determining how long he would be locked up was when Jiku would wake up. However, Jiku was first stabbed by Ling, then knocked unconscious and pushed off the cliff. It was already a blessing from the heavens that she didn't die after falling off the cliff. Tianxing found it hard to imagine how serious her injuries were and when she would wake up. Wait. He could only wait bitterly. This stone chamber was located deep underground. Other than the faint light from the stone lantern, he could never see the sky outside. During his imprisonment, only darkness accompanied him. At the bottom of the cliff, not far from the stone chamber, endless cold wind was blowing, constantly pouring into the stone chamber. Tianxing had only been sitting on the stone bench for an hour when he was chilled by the bone-chilling cold wind and shivered all over. Darkness, coldness, loneliness, and helplessness surrounded him. Boundless rage and killing intent silently rose in his heart once more. "Damn Ling, you bastard! Bastard! When I see the light of day again, I will tear you to pieces and burn your bones to ashes." Tianxing clenched his fists, his fingers cracking as he roared at the top of his lungs. It was the first time in his life that he hated someone so much. It was also the first time he saw someone so despicable and sinister, so deranged to such an extent. Even when he was betrayed and humiliated by Ling Yunfei, the anger and killing intent in his heart were not as turbulent as now. Time passed quietly. After an unknown period of time, Tianxing curled up on the stone bench in the corner. His face was blue from the cold wind, and his entire body was stinging with pain. He knew that he could not sit there any longer. This cave was called Dark Wind Cave, and it was specially used to imprison disciples who violated the sect's rules. Naturally, it was used as a punishment. The endless cold wind was his punishment. No, I have to think of a way to resist the cold wind. If I continue to sit here like this, my flesh and blood will definitely freeze and my meridians will die. The only way Tianxing could think of was to circulate his energy to resist the cold. Fortunately, he had an abundance of vital essence. After the vital essence circulated throughout his body and spread to his limbs and bones, the stinging pain in his flesh and meridians lessened by a lot. This method was indeed effective. Tianxing's emotions calmed down slightly. He abandoned the distracting thoughts in his heart and sat cross-legged on the ground to circulate his energy to cultivate. He followed the 3rd level of the path of the sword and mobilized the vital essence in his body to flow through the 9 main meridians. He wanted to refine the 9 meridians in his sword veins. 12 hours had passed, and his power was slowly increasing. His physical body had also adapted to the cold wind that constantly poured into the stone room. An entire day had passed, and the hunger in his stomach made him restless. He had to stop his cultivation and open the 100 treasures brocade pouch to look for food. Fortunately, when the stinky old man detained Yu and the black dragon sword, he did not take away the 100 treasures brocade pouch and returned it to him. He used to store a lot of food and fruits in the 100 treasures brocade pouch for the little ice fox, Yu. After casually eating some fruits and food, his hunger was alleviated, and he started to circulate his energy to cultivate again. Unknowingly, 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, the cave was silent and gloomy. No one had come. Other than Ji Tianqing himself, he did not even see a shadow. He had been circulating his energy to cultivate day and night. When he was hungry, he would look for food in the 100 treasures brocade pouch. Unfortunately, after 5 days of consumption, the little food in the 100 treasures brocade pouch was finally finished. Under the unbearable hunger, Ji Tianqing could only think of another way. He remembered that there were many elixirs in the 100 treasures brocade pouch, so he took out some elixirs and consumed them. He circulated his energy to refine the elixirs and replenish his energy. Experts of the Tongxin realm can abstain from eating. Even if they don't eat a grain of rice for 10 days to half a month, it won't affect them much. Although I'm only at the 6th level of the true energy realm, I can rely on these elixirs to maintain my vital essence and practice abstaining from eating. Abstaining from eating meant that experts of the martial way did not eat and only relied on absorbing the yuan qi of heaven and earth to maintain their energy. This was something only experts of the Tongxin realm could do. The Tongxin realm was the realm where one could understand the heavens and earth and communicate with the underworld. Martial artists of this realm could transform their strong willpower into spiritual consciousness and communicate with the yuan qi of heaven and earth. They could absorb the yuan qi like water and convert it into their own vital essence. As long as their vital essence was abundant, a Tongxin realm martial artist would not need to eat or drink and still possess great strength. Ji Tianqing had never thought of deliberately practicing abstaining from eating. He wanted to wait until he reached the Tongxin realm and let nature take its course. However, he was in a difficult situation now and had to rely on his strong willpower and endurance to practice abstaining from eating. Unknowingly, another 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, Ji Tianqing only relied on a few elixirs to maintain his vital essence and his strong willpower to endure the hunger. He had actually achieved the initial stage of abstaining from eating. Moreover, he had cultivated in the stone room for 10 days and had successfully refined his first main meridian into a sword meridian. His strength had also increased. Although he had made some progress in the cultivation of the sword heart, he was not happy at all. Instead, he was filled with worry. It's been 10 days. Why hasn't anyone come to find me? Could it be that Ko has been unconscious and hasn't woken up yet? Chapter 128. Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with worry, and his heart was burning with anxiety. He was fine being locked up for 10 days, but he was more worried that Ji Ku still hadn't woken up after 10 days. Could something have happened to him? At the thought of this, he became restless and paced back and forth in the stone room. At this moment, he didn't dare to extravagantly hope that the Commandment Hall would let him leave Dark Wind Cave once the truth was out. He only hoped that someone would come and tell him some news about Ji Ku. At the very least, it would give him peace of mind. However, no one came to Dark Wind Cave for 10 whole days. Who would come to see him and give him news? Ji Tianqing sat on the stone bench, his thoughts in a mess. After about 4 hours, the sound of light footsteps suddenly came from the dark cave. Ji Tianqing thought that he had misheard or was hallucinating. He was still sitting on the stone bench, deep in thought with a frown. After 100 breaths, the footsteps got closer and clearer. It was only now that Ji Tianqing was finally sure that he hadn't misheard. Someone had really come. He stood up with a swish and held the iron bars of the black iron door with both hands, trying his best to look into the cave. He saw a slim figure in a long white dress with waist-length hair slowly walking out of the darkness. When she came to the door of the stone room, Ji Tianqing was shocked when he saw her face clearly. "Why are you here? Eldest senior sister, why are you here?" Ji Tianqing thought that the person who came was the Commandment Hall's deacon, but he didn't expect that the person who came was Yun Yao. Yun Yao stood outside the stone room, only separated from him by a black iron door. She looked at him calmly. Seeing that his face was a little haggard and his body was a little haggard, Yun Yao couldn't help but frown slightly, as if she couldn't bear to see him like this. After a moment of silence, she said calmly, "I know that after that incident, you must be angry and irritable being locked up here. That's why I waited until today to see you. I believe that you calmed down. Tianxing nodded as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Yes, I was indeed very angry and irritable a few days ago. But since it has already happened, there's nothing I can do no matter how angry I am. There's nothing I can do if I don't calm down. After a pause, he stared into Yun Yao's eyes and asked in a serious tone, Eldest senior sister, if I said that Jiku was pushed off the cliff by Ji Ling and that I was wrongly accused, would you believe me? Yun Yao nodded without hesitation and said gently, I believe you. If I didn't believe you, I wouldn't have come to see you. Ji Tianxing's tense heart suddenly relaxed, and his mood also relaxed a lot. He laughed self-deprecatingly and said to himself, Yes, I didn't think of that. Yun Yao then said gently, Don't think about running away. Just wait here for the time being. The truth will come to light eventually. Although the Commandment Hall is strict and merciless, causing the disciples and the sect to be afraid, the Commandment Hall has always been fair and impartial. They won't wrongly accuse a good person. Ji Tianxing nodded and asked worriedly, Eldest senior sister, how's Kuku? Yin Yao frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, Jiku's injuries are too serious. It's already a blessing that he's still alive. She's been unconscious. The elders in the sect are trying to find a way to save her, but they don't know when she'll wake up. Ji Tianxing was even more worried. He gripped the bars of the iron door tightly and shouted with grief and indignation, Damn Ji Ling! This vicious bastard! I'll kill him sooner or later. Yin Yao shook her head with a complicated expression. Junior brother Tianxing, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't fight with Ji Ling. You can't beat him. Why? Ji Tianxing asked unwillingly. Could it be that I can only watch him get away with it and not take revenge? Yin Yao sighed heavily. Junior brother Tianxing, Ji Ling is the person our sect is looking for. The sect leader thinks highly of him. Hearing this, Ji Tianxing suddenly remembered what Ji Ling had said to him with a smug expression on his face that day on Jade Sword Peak. Eldest senior sister, that day on Jade Sword Peak, Ji Ling personally told me that he was the person our sect had been painstakingly looking for. The sect leader wanted to nurture him with all his might and even wanted to take him in as a direct disciple. Could it be because he has the Xian sword bloodline? Yin Yao was silent for a while before nodding to Ji Tianxing. Yes. Ji Tianxing's body trembled. Suddenly, he sneered with a strange expression. His eyes surged with an incomparably vicious glint. Ha ha! As expected, the heavens are playing tricks on me. In the end, the sneer had turned into a wild laughter. That wild laughter was filled with anger and unwillingness, as well as a strong sense of ridicule. When Yin Yao saw Ji Tianxing's crazy appearance, she slightly frowned and felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. This was because she could clearly feel that Ji Tianxing's wild laughter contained a strong sense of sorrow. After a long while, the wild laughter stopped. Ji Tianxing stared at Yin Yao with a burning gaze and asked in a low voice, Eldest senior sister, if I tell you that the Xian sword bloodline was originally my innate bloodline, and that Ji Ling set up a sinister scheme and used the God-seizing orb to steal my life's cultivation and Xian sword bloodline, would you believe me? He knew how shocking these words were, and how absurd they sounded to others. He was even more clear that if other disciples were to hear these words, they would probably treat him as a lunatic who had lost his mind. However, he didn't know why. But when faced with Yin Yao's beautiful face and those clear eyes that seemed to be able to see through one's heart, he couldn't help but want to tell the truth. Moreover, he was also looking forward to seeing Yin Yao's reaction. Yin Yao was stunned for a moment. Her clear and deep eyes suddenly widened and only returned to normal after a while. A hint of shock and disbelief appeared on her beautiful face. However, she remained silent and stared at Ji Tianxing's eyes for a long time before nodding solemnly. I believe you. Ji Tianxing's body trembled slightly, and an extremely complicated feeling flashed through his heart, but he also felt an inexplicable sense of relief. He revealed a face full of smiles, a very clean and sincere smile. When he was being wronged, when he was in prison, there was actually someone who believed in him. Moreover, this person was the #1 genius of the Tianshan region, Yin Yao, who was like a fairy from the 9 heavens. How could he not be filled with relief? Yin Yao pondered for a moment, then said to him with a serious expression, "Junior brother Tianxing, although this news is very shocking, what the sect leader needs is only the Xian sword bloodline. The sect leader doesn't care about Ji Ling's background at all, nor does he care about how he obtained the Xian sword bloodline. Do you understand?" The smile on Ji Tianxing's face suddenly disappeared. After a moment of silence, he said with a bitter smile, "I understand. Even if I tell the sect leader this news, it won't affect Ji Ling's future, right?" Yin Yao didn't reply, but she tacitly agreed. "All right, I should go." She nodded at Ji Tianxing and reminded him again, "Don't give up. Wait for the results in peace." With that, she turned around and left. Ji Tianxing watched as her slim back was gradually swallowed by the darkness. After hesitating for a moment, he asked loudly, "Senior sister, I want to ask you one last question. What I said just now, if it was anyone else, they might not believe it. Why are you willing to believe me?" Yin Yao stopped in her tracks, but she didn't turn around. After a moment of silence, she said in a calm voice, "Because I went to the Qingyun kingdom, and after seeing you a few times, I could feel that you were different from the rest. In fact, I always felt that you were the person the sect was looking for." Chapter 129. Before Yin Yao left, she gave Ji Tianxing 2 Heaven Heart elixirs. The Heaven Heart elixir was a black grade high-grade elixir, a rare cultivation elixir. With these 2 elixirs, not only could Ji Tianxing continue his anedia for half a month, but his cultivation would also increase greatly. He held the 2 elixirs in his hands and stood at the entrance of the stone room for a long time. Although the cave was still dark and the cold wind was still bone-chilling, he did not feel lonely. Yin Yao came to visit him and was willing to believe in him. To him, this was a great comfort and encouragement. His heart had truly calmed down. Even if he had to endure the loneliness and cold, he was no longer so lonely and helpless. After a long time, he returned to the corner and sat down. He took a blood spear elixir and continued to cultivate. 2 days passed quickly. Ji Tianxing had refined the blood spirit elixir, and his cultivation had more than doubled. He was not far from the 7th level of the true energy realm. Moreover, he had achieved a small success in his anedia cultivation. Although he had not eaten or drunk for 7 days, he did not feel hungry. Moreover, his true energy was flowing more easily and smoothly, reaching a point where he could do as he pleased. Late at night, Ji Tianxing was meditating and cultivating in the corner of the cave. Suddenly, he vaguely heard a rustling sound coming from the bottom of the cliff not far away. He thought it was the sound of the wind from the bottom of the cliff and did not pay much attention to it. However, after a while, the sound of rocks rolling down the cliff came from the bottom of the cliff. Ji Tianxing heard it clearly and was immediately awakened. "I'm the only one in this cave. The cliff is so deep that I can't see the bottom. How could there be movement? Could there be some monster or ferocious beast climbing up from the bottom of the cliff?" In the darkness, he did not understand his surroundings and could not help but think of many things. He tiptoed to the side of the iron door and pressed his face against the iron railing, trying his best to look in the direction of the cliff. The cliff 10 meters away was still pitch black, and cold winds were constantly gushing out of it. Ji Tianxing stood motionless by the door and stared at the cliff with wide eyes, silently observing. Ordinary people might not be able to see through the darkness, but he was an expert of the 6th level of the true energy realm. His eyesight was 10 times better than ordinary people. He focused his attention on the cliff and could see the lines of the rock layer on the edge of the cliff. About 10 breaths later, a hand suddenly stretched out from the bottom of the silent cliff. It was a palm that was wider than a normal person's, and its skin was light purple. Although the hand looked slender and looked like a woman's hand, it was indeed a little too big. It was even bigger than Ji Tianxing's palm. "What is it?" Ji Tianxing was shocked. His whole body tensed up, but he held his breath and didn't make a sound. The next moment, a slender figure in a black robe flew out from the bottom of the cliff and landed silently at the edge of the cliff. Even though the robe worn by that person was rather loose and covered 90% of his body, the robe was still quite large. However, the figure under the black robe was tall and slender. Moreover, it was curvaceous. It was obviously a woman. However, the woman's height was astonishing. She was half a head taller than Ji Tianxing, at least 9 meters. The skin on her hands and neck was also light purple. It looked a little weird. Ji Tianxing frowned and muttered to himself, "Why is this woman so tall? And her skin is light purple? Could it be that he's sick? No. Who is she? Why did she climb out from the bottom of the cliff?" Just as he was filled with doubts and secretly observing the woman in the black robe, the woman in the black robe sensed his breath and suddenly turned to look at the door of the stone room. Ji Tianxing didn't have time to retreat before he was discovered by the woman in the black robe. Swoosh! A black shadow flashed. The woman in the black robe was like a wisp of black smoke. In an instant, she crossed the distance of 10 meters and appeared at the door of the stone room. She stood outside the iron door, half a meter away from Ji Tianxing. There was only one iron door between them. At such a close distance, Ji Tianxing immediately saw that the woman in the black robe was wearing a cold iron mask. Under the mask, there was a pair of big eyes. The pupils were dark red like blood and emitted a cold air of death. Tall body, weird skin color, and blood-red eyes. Is she a member of the alien tribe? Suddenly, this thought flashed through Ji Tianxing's mind. He was full of shock. At the same time, the woman in the black robe silently stretched out her right hand and quickly grabbed Ji Tianxing's forehead. In the center of her wide palm, there was a dark red bloodlight, which condensed into a blood hand the size of a wash basin. Ji Tianxing was shocked. Without hesitation, he took 5 steps back and barely dodged the bloody hand's grasp. Bang! The huge, dark red bloody hand slammed into the iron bars of the black iron door with a dull thud. The black iron bars were as thick as a child's arm. The material of the bars was comparable to a top-grade Xian weapon and was very tough. However, Ji Tianxing saw with his own eyes that the 3 black iron railings were actually bent and twisted by the dark red bloody hand, as if they were a asterisk. His eyes widened and his eyebrows twitched. He was shocked. Oh my God, this woman's strength is so terrifying. She has probably surpassed the mystic comprehending realm and reached the primal core realm. When the woman in the black robe attacked, he clearly felt the aura of the woman in the black robe. Her aura was not inferior to Yin Yao's. Luckily, he retreated in time. If he was a second later, his head would have been crushed by the woman in the black robe's bloody hand. Who are you? Why do you want to kill me? Ji Tianxing retreated to the corner of the stone room, 8 meters away from the woman in the black robe, and asked with a face full of anger. The woman in the black robe stared at him with her dark red eyes, revealing a cold, murderous intent. She said in a low voice, "I thought there was no one here. I didn't expect a flea like you to be here. Consider yourself pitiful. I have to kill you. I can't reveal my whereabouts." The woman in the black robe spoke in the human language, but her accent was awkward. It sounded weird. Ji Tianxing was even more certain that the woman in the black robe was a member of the alien tribe. He stared coldly at the woman in the black robe and said in a low voice, "Woman, you are really vicious. I don't even know you, and I have no grudges with you. You want to kill me? No matter where you are from or where you are going, it has nothing to do with me." His meaning was clear. No matter who the woman in the black robe was or what she was planning to do in the Dark Wind Cave, it had nothing to do with him. As long as the woman in the black robe wasn't very cruel and vicious, she should have turned around and left after hearing what he said. Ji Tianxing said that because he had no other choice. The woman in the black robe was too powerful. He had no chance of winning, so he could only swallow his anger. However, he underestimated the woman in the black robe's cruelty. "Haha, since you saw me, you deserve to die." The woman in the black robe laughed coldly. She suddenly turned into a cloud of black fog, passed through the black iron door, and entered the stone room. Her scarlet eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. She reached out her bloody hand again and grabbed at Ji Tianxing's head. At the critical moment, Ji Tianxing's nerves tensed up, and he burst out with all his strength. Wind Thunderstrike. He instantly activated 2.5-meter-long golden sword chi and slashed at the woman in the black robe from the left and right. The golden sword chi mixed with a violent hurricane and turned into a 0.5-meter-long lightning bolt and slashed at the woman in the black robe. Bang! The lightning bolt was blocked by the bloody hand, and a muffled sound was heard. Chapter 130. The Gale Thunderstrike was Ji Tianxing's most powerful move. With this move, he could severely injure Jianyu, who was at the mystic comprehending state. However, the dark golden lightning was shattered by the bloody hand and dissipated instantly. The huge bloody hand was unscathed and grabbed his head at lightning speed. The black-robed woman was too powerful. She was so powerful that Ji Tianxing felt hopeless. He had no chance to fight back. Seeing that the Gale Thunderstrike was broken, he jumped 5 meters to the left without hesitation and tried his best to avoid the bloody hand. Bam! The black-robed woman's bloody hand hit the dark brown wall and left a huge handprint on the wall. Countless pieces of broken stone splattered everywhere. Oomph! Damned flea, still trying to dodge? The black-robed woman sneered disdainfully. She waved her 2 huge bloody hands and grabbed at Ji Tianxing from both sides. Ji Tianxing tried his best to escape. He dashed left and right in the stone room, looking very pathetic. The black-robed woman's bloody hands missed and slapped the stone wall repeatedly. Bam! 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 They left a few huge handprints. The entire stone room shook. Cracks appeared on the stone wall, and countless pieces of broken stone splattered everywhere. Unfortunately, the stone room was too small, and there was no room to maneuver. Ji Tianxing tried his best to dodge the 4th attack, but in the end, he was unable to dodge the 5th attack from Bloodhand. Bam! Amidst the muffled sound, he was hit on the back by the huge, bloody hand. He was immediately sent flying and crashed into the stone wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the corner of the wall. He was exhausted and his eyes were closed. He had been seriously injured and had fainted. The black-robed woman walked to his side. Her eyes flashed with disdain. She raised her hand, and the huge, bloody hand that contained an incomparably violent power fiercely slammed towards Ji Tianxing's chest. If this palm hit, Ji Tianxing would definitely be smashed into meat paste. There was no way he could survive. Bam! With a muffled sound, the huge bloody hand print hit Ji Tianxing's chest. However, he spat out a stream of blood, but his body did not change shape. The ice hornless armor he was wearing had blocked 80% of the Bloodhand's power at the critical moment, allowing him to survive. However, the black-robed woman frowned and glanced at the ice dragon armor under his green robe. Her eyes flashed with a mocking sneer. She once again raised her palm and unleashed a gigantic Bloodhand, slapping towards Ji Tianxing's head. Without the protection of the ice hornless armor, his head was about to be smashed into pieces. At this critical moment, a black light suddenly burst out from Ji Tianxing's dantian. The black light contained an icy aura of death. It instantly formed a huge black hole and enveloped the black-robed woman. The black-robed woman was caught off guard and was immediately stunned. In the blink of an eye, her huge bloody hand was swallowed by the black hole. All the energy in her body was quickly sucked away and poured into the black hole like a flood. The mysterious and powerful devouring power wrapped around her tightly, making it difficult for her to move. Her eyes were filled with intense fear. Damn it, what the hell is this? The black-robed woman let out a cry of alarm and struggled with all her might. However, even with all her strength, she could not break free from the black hole shackles. The more she urged her majestic strength to resist, the faster the black hole swallowed her strength. While she was filled with horror, the black-robed woman stared at the black hole. She could vaguely see layers of gray fog and a gigantic figure standing between the sky and the earth. However, she did not have time to pay attention to these, nor did she have time to investigate what the gigantic black figure was. "High Priest, save me!" The black-robed woman panicked and cried for help. Just as her voice fell, a cloud of black fog appeared outside the stone room with a whoosh and condensed into a tall and sturdy old man. This man was more than 2 meters tall and was as strong as an iron tower. The skin on his hands, feet, and neck was purple. He was also wearing a black robe. His long purple hair was tied into dozens of long braids, and his large feet were bare. It was unforgettable. Like the black-robed woman, the old man also came from the bottom of the cliff. Previously, when the black-robed woman was dealing with Ji Tianxing, he hid in the darkness not far away and was on guard. When he heard the black-robed woman's cry for help, he hurried over to save her. His eyes looked through the cold iron door and stared at the mysterious black hole. His blood-red eyes were filled with intense fear. Blood Moon Infanta, you shouldn't have provoked this person. The high priest shouted with a grave expression. He stretched out his hand and untied a 3-meter-long black whip from his waist. The whip was made of an unknown material. It was dark purple and covered with fine scales, making it look like a black snake. The high priest shook his wrist and let the whip pass through the cold iron door. The tip of the whip coiled around the waist of the Blood Moon Infanta. He let out a low growl and exerted all the strength he had in his life, pulling the long whip with all his might. The whip lit up with a purple radiance and emitted an extremely powerful force. It immediately pulled the immobile Blood Moon Infanta out of the black hole. Bang! The Blood Moon Infanta crashed into the cold iron door. The door, which was as thick as a palm, caved in and created a large hole. She collapsed on the ground with a dispirited expression. She gasped for breath violently and revealed a look of lingering fear. Too terrifying. 60% of my power was devoured. What exactly is that black hole? How can it have such terrifying power? She looked at the mysterious black hole with a heart full of fear and muttered with a hoarse voice. The high priest also stared at the mysterious black hole and reminded her in a low voice, Blood Moon Infanta, there was a commotion just now. We have to leave quickly. Otherwise, we will be discovered by the people of the sky-bearing sect. The Blood Moon Infanta glared at Ji Tianxing unwillingly. Then she turned into a black shadow and went out through the bars of the cold iron door. In the blink of an eye, the Blood Moon Infanta and the high priest turned into a ball of black fog and went out of the dark wind cave. In the Crimson Cloud Palace where the sect master lived on the Crimson Cloud Peak of the sky-bearing sect. In a secret room filled with multicolored brilliance and dense spiritual chi of heaven and earth like clouds and mist, Chu Tiansheng was sitting upright in the middle of a formation and cultivating. In the air 1/2 meter above the ground in front of him, there was a black turtle shell the size of a wash basin. The turtle shell was simple and mysterious. It was engraved with complicated patterns and thousands of silver light spots. The edges of the turtle shell were very round and smooth. It was obvious that it was often held in the palm of someone's hand and had been there for a long time. Suddenly, the silver light spots on the black turtle shell changed and moved quickly. In the blink of an eye, they arranged themselves into several strange silver lines. Chu Tiansheng, who was cultivating with his eyes closed, sensed the abnormality. He quickly opened his eyes and stared at the silver lines on the turtle shell. After a while, his expression changed and he frowned. He muttered in a low voice, "The star chart shows the aura of the demon race. The demon race has sneaked into our sect. Could it be that the people of the demon race have come for that unparalleled demon?" Chapter 131. Chu Tiansheng ended his cultivation and quickly walked out of the secret room. A moment later, he entered the sky-raising palace and let the guards ring the assembly bell. Not long after, many elders in purple robes rushed to the sky-raising palace. There were a total of 12 elders in the sky-raising sect. Except for 3 elders who had matters to attend to, the other 9 elders were all present. After everyone entered the main hall, they saw Chu Tiansheng with a dignified expression and a touch of worry between his brows. Several elders realized that something was wrong and hurriedly asked. Normally, the sky-raising palace will not ring the emergency assembly bell if there is no major event. Sect Master, Why did you call everyone here in such a hurry? Did something major happen? Could it be that the unparalleled demon under the scarlet firmament peak is about to break through the seal? It's very likely. The only thing that can threaten our sect now is that unparalleled demon. The faces of the 9 elders became dignified, full of anxiety and worry. Chu Tiansheng raised his hand and motioned for everyone to quiet down. Then he said in a low voice, "Elders, this king has summoned everyone here because there is indeed a major event to resolve. This matter is indeed related to that unparalleled demon." Just now, there was a change in the star chart. This king observed the star chart and learned that the aura of the demon race has appeared in the sect. Someone from the demon race has sneaked into our sect. This king suspects that those demons have come to rescue the unparalleled demon. Hearing these words, the mood of the elders slightly relaxed, and they secretly breathed a sigh of relief. So it's not the unparalleled demon coming out. This old man was worried for nothing. Fortunately, as long as that unparalleled demon hasn't broken through the seal, we still have time. That unparalleled demon has been sealed for thousands of years, but the demons have never been willing to give up. Every few decades, they will sneak into our sect in a vain attempt to destroy the seal and rescue the demon. Yes, we have also fought with the demons openly and secretly. Every time, we can beat them back. There's no need to worry at all. Chu Tianxing nodded and said with a solemn expression, "Yes, the followers and descendants of that unparalleled demon have been lurking in the depths of the earth, not daring to show their faces. For nearly 1,000 years, they have been trying to destroy the seal and let the unparalleled demon see the light of day again. Fortunately, the star chart can detect the aura of the demons, so they have returned without success every time. But this time is different. The seal has loosened and the demon has awakened. The situation is very critical. Everyone must not let their guard down." He glanced at the 9 elders and ordered in a deep voice, "This king order you all to lead a team of guards and immediately start searching the sect. Everyone must find the demons who have infiltrated our sect, and kill them on the spot. Even if we can't kill them, we must defeat them and drive them out of our sect." The 9 elders all cupped their hands and bowed, saying that they had received the order. Soon after, everyone took their leave and left the sky-raising palace to carry out their mission and search for the demon race. Chu Tiansheng sat alone on the sect master's throne. He frowned and muttered to himself for a while. He muttered to himself, "The situation is critical this time. The seal is already broken. If the demons destroy it, that unparalleled demon will definitely break the seal. Originally, I gave Ji Ling 2 blood spirit pills. I wanted him to use the medicinal power to refine Xian Jian's bloodline and increase the success rate of reactivating the 9-dragon trapping demon formation. But now it seems that this matter cannot be delayed any longer. I must activate the 9-dragon trapping demon formation as soon as possible to avoid any more problems." After making up his mind, he ordered Yun Yao to bring Ji Ling to the sky-raising palace. After giving the order, he flew out of the sky-raising palace and personally rushed to the Great Peace Palace. Reactivating the 9-dragon trapping demon formation was no small matter. He had to ask someone for instructions. Only with this person's help could he activate the formation. Chu Tianxing's entire body lit up with scarlet flames. A pair of fiery red wings condensed on his back as he flew in the sky like a large bird. Whoosh! With a flash of fire, he landed outside the Great Peace Palace. A middle-aged mute with a face full of sword scars walked out of the stone house at the entrance. He looked calmly at Chu Tiansheng and bowed. Chu Tiansheng also bowed and returned the greeting. He said calmly, "Sword slave, please report to Martial Uncle that this disciple has an important matter to discuss." The middle-aged mute called the sword slave nodded. He turned and ran into the Great Peace Palace. His figure flashed and disappeared. Chu Tiansheng waited outside the door for 100 breaths a time. The sword slave ran back like a black shadow. He nodded at Chu Tiansheng and gestured for him to enter. Only then did Chu Tianxing's expression soften. He hurriedly followed the sword slave into the Great Peace Palace and went deep into the palace. A moment later, Chu Tiansheng saw Xiang Wuji covered in the smell of medicine in the pill room of the third courtyard. Xiang Wuji was refining pills. His eyes were focused on the bronze cauldron. He did not notice the medicinal dregs on his hair and beard. Chu Tiansheng hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, "Martial Uncle Wuji, this disciple has an important matter to report." Xiang Wuji was still staring at the cauldron. He kept waving his hand and using his qi to control the fire inside. He did not even look at Chu Tiansheng. He said without turning his head, "If you have something to say, then say it. This old man is busy refining pills." Chu Tiansheng, who was respected by millions of cultivators in the heavenly stellar region, was now acting like a disciple in front of Xiang Wuji. He did not dare to waste time. He hurriedly said, "Martial Uncle Wuji, the star chart changed just now. It detected the presence of demons. There are demons that have snuck into our sect. This disciple has already ordered the 9 elders to search for traces of the demons. But this disciple is worried that a long delay will cause trouble. I plan to immediately bring Ji Ling into the sealing array and reactivate the 9 dragon-trapping demon array." Xiang Wuji's hands paused. He frowned and asked, "Ji Ling? The one that Yin Yao girl brought back from the Clear Sky country? The one that the star chart said could change fate?" "That's him." Chu Tianxing nodded. "This child is the same as senior sister Qiuyu. He also has the bloodline of Xian Sword. He should be able to reactivate the 9 dragon-trapping demon array." Xiang Wuji turned and asked with a serious face, "This matter concerns the secrets of our sect. Chu Tianxing, are you sure?" Chu Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "This disciple is sure." "Good. Then this old man will go with you to the demon cave." Xiang Wuji did not care about the unfinished pills in the cauldron. He brought Chu Tianxing out of the cauldron. The two used their qi to form a pair of wings. They flew across the sky like big birds and soon arrived at the Red Cloud Peak. When the two entered the sky-supporting palace, Yin Yao also arrived with Ji Ling. After Chu Tianxing let Yin Yao leave, he brought Xiang Wuji and Ji Ling into a secret room in the palace. The secret room was protected by a powerful array. There was also a teleportation array in the room that only Chu Tianxing could activate. When Chu Tianxing used a secret technique to activate the teleportation array, a blazing white door appeared in the secret room. The three of them only needed to step through this door to reach the demon cave beneath the Red Cloud Peak. That was the place where the demons were suppressed. Chapter 132. In the secret room, the white portal lit up. Chu Tianxing was not in a hurry to enter the portal. He looked at Ji Ling with a serious expression and warned him, "Ji Ling, this matter is very important and is the sect's biggest secret. When we enter the underground, you just have to do as I say. Don't look around, ask questions, and don't reveal anything. Do you understand?" Ji Ling guessed that he was about to come into contact with the sect's core secret. He was about to soar. He was very excited, but on the surface, he still had to pretend to be calm and collected. He nodded at Chu Tianxing and said in a serious tone, "I will follow sect master's orders. I will not ask anything that I shouldn't ask, and will not reveal anything." If he could, he would swear on the spot to show his loyalty to Chu Tianxing. Chu Tianxing was very satisfied with his reaction and attitude. His expression softened a lot. Xiang Wuji looked on coldly. He secretly looked at Ji Ling. No one knew what he was thinking. "Let's go. We should go in." After saying that, Chu Tianxing stepped into the portal. A white light flashed in the portal, and his figure disappeared in an instant. Ji Ling followed closely behind and stepped into the portal. Xiang Wuji was the last. When the three of them entered the underground cave, the secret room regained its silence. The white portal also slowly disappeared. Ji Tianxing slowly woke up in a daze. He did not know how long had passed. It could have been half a day or a whole day. He only knew that his chest hurt like a knife. Every time he breathed, he felt a burning pain. His mouth and nose were full of the smell of blood. The blood had already dried up. Cough, cough. He coughed twice, and a lot of dark red blood foam came out of his mouth and nose. Such a simple action affected his injuries. He was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. He struggled to get up, but his body was in so much pain that he could not do it for the time being. Helplessly, he could only lie on the cold ground and think about what had happened. I didn't die. Where did that cruel and vicious black-robed woman go? After she knocked me out, she actually injured me so badly. He glanced at his chest. His green robe had been completely burned, revealing the ice hornless armor underneath. However, the ice hornless armor's radiance was also very dim. It was obviously damaged. Fortunately, I have the ice chi armor. It must have saved my life at the critical moment. Otherwise, I would have died long ago. Ji Tianxing heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself that he was lucky. After resting on the ground for 10 minutes, he finally recovered some of his strength. Only then did he get up and sit in the corner. He looked around and saw that the walls of the stone room were full of cracks and huge holes. The black iron door was also twisted like a fried dough twist, and there was a huge dent in it. Ji Tianxing was filled with shock as he watched. He only felt that the black-robed woman was both cruel and powerful. She actually possessed such terrifying, destructive power. Damn black-robed alien. He cursed in a low voice and took out some healing pills from his 100 treasures brocade pouch, stuffing them into his mouth and swallowing them. After that, he sat cross-legged in the corner and began to circulate his energy to refine the pills, using the medicinal power to heal his injuries. The cave was still dark and silent. There was still a cold wind below the cliff, constantly pouring into the stone room. About 12 hours later, half a day had passed. Ji Tianxing finally ended his cultivation. After the medicinal power of the pills, his injuries had basically stabilized, and there were no major problems for the time being. However, if he wanted to fully recover, he still had to rest for at least half a month. Ji Tianxing looked at the dark cave outside the cold iron door and frowned as he fell into deep thought. I've been locked up for 12 days. There are only 3 days left until the end of the month assessment. Haha, I'm now a criminal. I can't even prove my innocence. What assessment do I need? He laughed at himself and muttered in a low voice. That black-robed woman is from the alien race. I wonder what she's up to in the sect. I hope the sect finds her quickly and kills her or chases her out. I hope Ka wakes up soon. That way, I can prove my innocence and let that damned Ji Ling be punished. After letting his imagination run wild for a while, Ji Tianxing slowly calmed down and continued to circulate his energy to heal his injuries and cultivate. It was late at night, on the Red Cloud Peak, in the hidden secret room in the depths of the palace. The dark secret room suddenly lit up with white light and condensed into a blazing white teleportation gate. In the next moment, 3 figures walked out of the teleportation gate and returned to the secret room. These 3 people were Chu Tiansheng, Xiang Wuji, and Ji Ling. However, Chu Tianxing's expression was very serious. His eyes were gloomy and filled with confusion. How can this be? That's impossible, he muttered to himself, full of unwillingness. Ji Ling's expression became even uglier. His empty eyes were filled with unwillingness. He lowered his head and stood beside Chu Tiansheng, looking as if he had lost his soul. His mood was extremely gloomy. Xiang Wuji's expression was also very gloomy. His eyes contained a hint of anger, but he had been holding it in. The blazing white teleportation gate quickly dissipated. The 3 of them silently walked out of the secret room and returned to the heaven-raising hall. The light in the large heaven-raising hall was dim. Only the stone lamps on the walls were lit with dim yellow light. Chu Tiansheng was silent for a while before saying to Ji Ling, "Ji Ling, you can leave. Return to the storm courtyard and stay there. You can't reveal anything about today's matter to anyone. Otherwise, I will punish you severely." Ji Ling lowered his head with an ugly expression. He could only salute and say, "Disciple understands. Disciple will take his leave." With that, he turned and walked out of the heaven-raising hall, returning to the storm courtyard with grief and indignation. Only Xiang Wuji and Chu Tiansheng were left in the heaven-raising hall. The atmosphere was a bit stifling. Chu Tiansheng hesitated for a moment before bowing to Xiang Wuji and saying, Martial uncle. Disciple was incompetent and didn't succeed in reactivating the array. Martial uncle, please punish me. Xiang Wuji glanced at him and sneered. You're the sect master. How can this old man punish you? Should I punish you by abdicating? Humph. Before entering the devil's den, this old man repeatedly asked you if you had thought it through. Did you find the right person? And the result? That Ji Ling you found couldn't activate the array at all. Even if you're sure that he has the Xian Jian bloodline, what's the use of that little bit of bloodline power? The 9 dragons trapping demon array didn't even react. Now it's all for nothing. The array wasn't successfully activated, and this old man even lost 20 spirit stones. Moreover, that Ji Ling looks loyal and honest on the surface, but in reality, he secretly knows about the devil's den and already knows our sect's biggest secret. Xiang Wuji was unable to restrain his anger. His entire old face was somewhat distorted, and his white beard flew up in anger. Chu Tiansheng, now tell this old man, how are you going to deal with it? How can you guarantee that Ji Ling won't leak our sect's secret? Chapter 133. Faced with Xiang Wuji's storm-like questions, Chu Tiansheng immediately revealed an ashamed expression. He bowed and lowered his head. After a moment of silence, he said in a deep voice, Martial uncle, this is indeed Disciple's negligence. Disciple will definitely think of a way to remedy it. Although Ji Ling already knows this secret, he is still an outer sect disciple. I will have the Wind Cloud Courtyard's deacon secretly keep an eye on him. I won't let him leak any secrets. Xiang Wuji nodded, tacitly agreeing with Chu Tiansheng's actions. He frowned and said with lingering anger, Chu Tiansheng, in the future, you have to think before you make any decisions. Don't make arbitrary decisions. Although you are the sect master, the sky-bearing sect isn't under your control. Even if you were the strongest among your peers back then, you definitely aren't the best candidate to be the sect master. Just like this old man, I was also the strongest among my fellow disciples. But this old man knows his own limits. I definitely won't be the sect master, lest I ruin the sect's 1,000 years of foundation. Xiang Wuji's words could be said to be harsh. He mercilessly criticized Chu Tiansheng for being strong, but not having the corresponding talent. Chu Tiansheng's face alternated between green and white, but he could only humbly accept the advice and didn't dare to refute it. Perhaps because Xiang Wuji had said too much, or perhaps because he was feeling irritated, he took out a jug of wine from his black thumb ring and sat in the main hall, minding his own business. Chu Tiansheng didn't dare to dissuade him. He could only take out the simple and mysterious tortoise shell and silently observe it. He used a secret technique and poured origin energy into the tortoise shell. The silver dots on the tortoise shell immediately began to change. A moment later, the silver dots arranged themselves into several lines, forming a mysterious pattern. When Chu Tiansheng saw the pattern, his mind shook and his eyes revealed a trace of surprise. Martial uncle, quickly look. I used the faded star chart to deduce the result. The person we are looking for is actually still in the sect. Xiang Wuji was holding the jug of wine and drinking in large mouthfuls. When he suddenly heard this, he almost spat out the wine in his mouth. He suddenly turned his head to glare at Chu Tiansheng and angrily scolded, Chu Tiansheng, do you have a pig's brain? You didn't expel Ji Ling from the sect, so of course he's still in the sect. Chu Tiansheng hurriedly explained, Martial uncle, the person shown on the star chart isn't Ji Ling, but someone else. Someone else? Xiang Wuji was also startled. His face was full of confusion as he asked. According to the star chart, the person who defied fate came from the Imperial Qing dynasty. Since the person who defies fate is still in our sect and not Ji Ling, then things will be easy. Go and check how many disciples we have from the Royal Azure dynasty and then carefully screen them. Chu Tiansheng quickly put away the star chart and nodded. Disciple obeys. He hadn't expected the result to be like this. The heavens were actually so fond of the Sky Pillar sect. Although Ji Ling was unable to reactivate the 9-dragon trapping devil formation and wasn't someone who defied fate, the true person who defied fate was still in the Sky Pillar sect. Chu Tiansheng finally breathed a sigh of relief. His heart was filled with anticipation. The next morning, Chu Tiansheng gathered the 9 elders in the Sky Pillar Hall for a meeting. He sat on the sect master's throne and calmly swept his gaze over the 9 elders in the hall. He asked in a deep voice, "Yesterday, this seat asked you to investigate the demon invasion. What's the result?" Outer sect elder Chu Huaishan immediately stepped forward and respectfully reporting to sect master, "Last night we found the invading demons. There were 2 of them, one old and one young. The old man is the high priest of the demon tribe. As for the young woman he brought, her identity is unknown. She should be a noble child of the demon tribe." When this subordinate discovered their tracks, this subordinate joined forces with 2 other elders to besiege them. Unfortunately, they used the smoke catcher umbrella and escaped again. Chu Tiansheng slightly frowned. After pondering for a moment, he nodded and said, "That high priest is our sect's sworn enemy. Within 100 years, he has infiltrated our sect 3 times in a vain attempt to rescue the demon. Unfortunately, he has the smoke catcher umbrella. Even if this seat personally took action, I might not be able to capture him. You've already done your best. This seat does not blame you. If you can drive them out of the sect, they won't dare to invade again in the short term." After he finished speaking, Chu Huaishan cupped his hands and bowed, then returned to the group of elders. Immediately after, the Spirit Medicine Hall elder took 2 steps forward and reported to Chu Tiansheng, reporting to sect master, "This subordinate has something important to report." Chu Tiansheng slightly nodded and asked, "What is it?" The Spirit Medicine Hall elder calmly said, "The outer sect's White Dew Courtyard's female disciple, Ji Ku, has been treated by this subordinate and regained consciousness last night. The internal strife that occurred 13 days ago in the outer sect should also have conclusion. Originally, there was no need for Chu Tiansheng to deal with the internal strife of the outer sect's disciples. However, that matter was related to the outer sect's disciple, Ji Ling, so the outer sect elder Chu Huaishan had already reported it to him. Now that he heard the Spirit Medicine Hall elder's report, Chu Tiansheng pondered for a moment and nodded. "All right, take this seat to her in a moment. This seat wants to ask her face to face." Following that, another 2 elders reported some matters of the sect. They were all ordinary sect matters. Chu Tiansheng made a decision on the spot and handed it over to the elders to carry out. After half an hour, the meeting ended and the elders left the Sky Pillar Hall one after another. Chu Tiansheng also followed the Spirit Medicine Hall elder. After leaving the Sky Pillar Hall, he rushed to the Spirit Medicine Hall on the Spirit Medicine Peak. The Spirit Medicine Hall was located at the peak of the mountain and was an important place in the Sky Pillar sect. Ordinary disciples were not allowed to approach it. Hundreds of lofty palaces were surrounded by lush, towering trees. The palaces were shrouded in white clouds and thick fog, making the Spirit Medicine Hall seem like a fairyland. In one of the palaces of the Spirit Medicine Hall, there were hundreds of spacious and bright rooms set up with formations. They were specially used to treat the injuries of the sect's disciples. Chu Tiansheng followed the Spirit Medicine Hall elder into a room filled with the smell of medicinal herbs and saw 2 women in the room. One of the young girls was Ji Ku. She was lying on the bed with a pale face. Her eyes were dim and lifeless. Clearly, she had yet to recover her vitality. The other young girl was a servant of the Spirit Medicine Hall. She was carefully taking care of Ji Ku, holding a bowl of medicinal soup and feeding her medicine. Seeing the Spirit Medicine Hall elder and Chu Tiansheng enter the room, the servant hurriedly bowed respectfully, put down the bowl of medicine, and left. Ji Ku couldn't get up and bow, so she nodded in greeting. The Spirit Medicine Hall elder said to her with a kind expression, "Ji Ku, this is our sect's sect master. He specially came to see you and ask about what happened that day. From beginning to end, tell him everything in detail. You must tell him the truth. Don't hide anything." Chapter 134. When she mentioned what happened that day, Ji Ku's emotions became somewhat agitated. Her eyes were filled with anger, and she immediately recounted the events from beginning to end. At noon that day, I was cultivating in my residence in the White Dew courtyard when a female disciple suddenly delivered a letter to me. The spirit medicine hall elder and Chu Tianshang calmly looked at her and listened attentively. Time slowly passed, and the more Ji Ku spoke, the more agitated she became. When she spoke of how she was stabbed by Ji Ling and pushed off the cliff, her emotions were both sorrowful and angry, and tears welled up in her eyes. I really didn't expect this. Ji Ling is actually cruel and vicious to this extent. He is my imperial uncle, my imperial father's younger brother. He didn't even let off a niece like me. He's simply a beast that's worse than a pig or a dog. When he heard this, the truth was already revealed. Chu Tianxing's expression was somewhat gloomy, and his brows were tightly knitted. He recalled that Xiang Wuji had said last night that Ji Ling appeared to be loyal and honest on the surface, but was actually secretly observing the situation in the underground demon's cave. Now, Ji Ku's words proved that Ji Ling was a cold-blooded, ruthless, and despicable villain. Chu Tianshang had to admit that his martial uncle Xiang Wuji was indeed good at discerning people. He was able to see through a person's nature in an instant. He also had to consider how to deal with the situation now that Ji Ling knew about the underground demon's cave. At this moment, the spirit medicine hall elder sighed and comforted Ji Ku with a kind tone. He was a stooped, white-bearded old man with a kind face. He had always been gentle and magnanimous, and was the most popular person in the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Ku wiped away the tears in her eyes and sincerely thanked the spirit medicine hall elder. Chu Tianxing frowned and pondered for a moment before coming up with an idea. He solemnly said to Ji Ku, "Ji Ku, you can focus on recuperating in the spirit medicine hall. I will make a decision on this matter." With that, Chu Tianxing turned to leave. Ji Ku was clearly unwilling and quickly said anxiously, "Sect Master, Ji Ling is unforgivable. You can't let him off so easily. And Big Brother Tianxing, I heard that he was wronged and imprisoned in the Dark Wind Cave. Now that more than 10 days have passed, I don't know how he has been tortured. Please let him go." However, Chu Tianxing walked out of the room without looking back. He didn't respond to her words at all. Ji Ku looked disappointed and worried. She couldn't help but start sobbing again. The spiritual medicine hall elder hurriedly comforted her. "Ji Ku, don't worry. Our sect has its own rules. The sect master will definitely follow the sect's rules and will not protect anyone." Although Ji Ku was worried, there was nothing he could do. He could only nod. At this point, she could only silently pray that Ji Tianxing would be fine. Chu Tianxing returned to the sky-raising palace with a solemn expression and summoned Yun Yao and the discipline hall elders. When Yun Yao and the discipline hall elder entered the main hall, he immediately gave the order. "Elder Huang, immediately bring Ji Ling and his 2 accomplices to the main hall. I want to punish them. Yin Yao, quickly go to the Dark Wind Cave and bring Ji Tianxing here. I want to judge this matter in person and clear his name." The discipline hall elder didn't say much. He immediately cupped his fists and walked out of the main hall to carry out the order. Yin Yao stayed behind and asked doubtfully, "Master, has Ji Ku woken up and you already know the truth?" Chu Tianxing nodded and said, "Yes, that female disciple woke up last night. I just came back from the spiritual medicine hall and questioned her face to face." Yin Yao nodded and asked again, "Master, did you fail to activate the array when you brought Ji Ling into the underground demon's cave last night?" Chu Tianxing nodded expressionlessly and said, "That's right. He is not someone who defies fate. The person we're looking for is still in our sect." A strange look flashed through Yun Yao's eyes. She already understood something in her heart. However, her thoughts were meticulous, and she had always done things flawlessly. She was very steady. Although she knew the answer in her heart, she wasn't completely sure, so she wouldn't say it rashly at this moment. Disciple will take her leave. She bowed to Chu Tianxing and left the heaven-raising palace, rushing to the Dark Wind Cave. About a quarter of an hour later, she entered the Dark Wind Cave and came to the stone room door. When she saw that the cold iron door was dented and twisted, and the stone room's walls were full of cracks and big handprints, she immediately frowned. Ji Tianxing was sitting in the corner, cultivating. His face was pale, and his body was stained with blood. It was obvious that he had been injured. She woke Ji Tianxing up and asked with a frown, "Junior brother Tianxing, what's going on?" Ji Tianxing understood why she was asking, so he answered truthfully, "Yesterday, a woman wearing a black robe climbed out of the cliff and wanted to kill me without any explanation." After listening to him, Yin Yao understood that it was a demon expert who had secretly invaded. Judging from the damage to the cold iron door and the stone room's walls, the demon woman was very strong. Ji Tianxing was only severely injured. It was already extremely fortunate that he was still alive. She didn't ask much about this matter. "Junior brother Tianxing, Ji Ku has woken up. The sect master ordered me to take you to the heaven-raising palace." After saying this, she took out a key and unlocked the cold iron door. Ji Tianxing immediately revealed a look of joy and said excitedly, "That's great. I knew that Ku was lucky and would definitely wake up. Damn Ji Ling, it's time to admit your guilt and be executed." Then he walked out of the stone room and followed Yun Yao out of the dark wind cave, rushing to the heaven-raising palace. When the two of them entered the heaven-raising palace, there were already 4 people standing in the main hall. These 4 people were the Discipline Hall elders, Ji Ling, Jian Yu, and Lu Mingyang. Chu Tiansheng sat in the main seat with a gloomy expression and remained silent. The atmosphere in the main hall was very oppressive. Ji Ling, Jian Yu, and Lu Mingyang all realized that something was wrong. Their expressions were very ugly, and they felt very nervous. When they saw Yun Yao bring Ji Tianxing into the main hall, they were filled with grief and indignation. Their hearts were filled with a strong sense of uneasiness. Ji Tianxing also stared coldly at Ji Ling, his eyes surging with a strong, murderous intent. Seeing that everyone was present, Chu Tiansheng said in a low voice, "Last night, Jika woke up after being treated by the Spiritual Medicine Hall elders. Just now, I went to the Spiritual Medicine Hall to question Jika face to face and found out everything that happened that day." At this point, he looked at Ji Ling, Jian Yu, and Lu Mingyang with a dignified expression and shouted sternly, "Do the 3 of you know your crimes?" As his voice rang out, his body emitted an invisible pressure that enveloped Ji Ling and the other 2. The 3 of them immediately turned ashen. They knew that the matter had been completely exposed, and the truth would be revealed today. Jian Yu and Lu Mingyang could not bear Chu Tianxing's powerful pressure. They immediately knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "Sect Master, this disciple knows his crimes." This disciple was confused for a moment. "Sect Master, please show mercy." "Sect Master, this disciple will not dare to do it again in the future. Please forgive me." Chu Tiansheng ignored the 2 of them and stared at Ji Ling. He shouted in a deep voice, "Ji Ling, what else do you have to say?" Ji Ling's heart was filled with grief and indignation. He looked like he had lost his soul. A few days ago, he was still in high spirits and was about to become the sect master's favorite person. In the future, he would be a personal disciple and even have the qualifications to compete for the sect master's position. At this moment, he had failed to successfully activate the 9 dragons, trapping demon formation, and was even exposed. He was about to be punished by the sect's rules. The difference between the 2 situations was huge. It was as if he had fallen from the clouds to hell, making him almost go crazy. At this point, no matter how unwilling he was, he could not use any of his sinister methods in front of Chu Tiansheng. He could only kneel on the ground and kowtow to Chu Tiansheng, begging for mercy. "This disciple knows his crimes. Please punish me, Sect Master." Chapter 135. Ji Ling, Jian Yu, and Lu Mingyang all knelt down and admitted their guilt. Chu Tiansheng was expressionless as he announced the punishment in a stern tone. "Lu Mingyang, you conspired with Ji Ling and Jian Yu to murder your fellow junior sisters and maliciously frame your fellow junior brothers. You have violated the 3rd commandment of the sect. Since you are an accomplice and have a good attitude, I will strip you of your status as an inner disciple and demote you to the outer disciple. I will also deduct your monthly allowance for half a year." Lu Mingyang was only an accomplice and did not attack Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku. His crime was lighter. Therefore, Chu Tianxing's punishment was reasonable. Although it was humiliating to be stripped of his status as an inner disciple, Lu Mingyang had no objections and immediately kowtowed. "Thank you for your forgiveness, sect leader. I am willing to accept the punishment and will sincerely repent in the future." Chu Tianxing nodded and continued to announce, "Jianyu, you conspired with Ji Ling to murder your fellow junior brothers and junior sisters. You have violated the sects. Since you are an accomplice, I punish you to be confined in the Dark Wind Cave for half a year and deduct 1 year's allowance." When Jianyu heard the words Dark Wind Cave, his body trembled and his heart was filled with grief and indignation. Of course, he knew how bitter and cold it was in the Dark Wind Cave. He was going to be confined in the Dark Wind Cave for half a year. However, he knew very well that Chu Tianxing's punishment was reasonable and he could only kowtow and accept his punishment. Disciple Jianyu is willing to accept the punishment and will definitely reflect on my mistakes. Finally, Chu Tianxing's gaze fell on Ji Ling. He announced in a low voice, "Ji Ling, you are the mastermind behind this matter. Your vile methods and vicious heart are rare. With your character and the crimes you have committed, you are not worthy to be a disciple of the sect. I have decided to abolish your lifetime's cultivation and expel you from the sect." When he heard the punishment, Ji Ling trembled and was filled with grief, anger, and despair. He had expected that he would be expelled from the sect after the matter was exposed. However, he did not expect Chu Tianxing to abolish his lifetime's cultivation. His punishment was too heavy. He was once a trash with a damaged dantian. Although the people of Qingyun feared his identity as a prince, they were very disdainful of him. However, he was not willing to be mediocre and had great ambition. That was why he deliberately pretended to be a virtuous gentleman to win the respect of the people of Qingyun. Because he was humiliated by being called a trash. That was why he used Ling Yunfei and schemed to seize Ji Tianxing's bloodline and his cultivation. Now, he had finally realized his long-cherished wish and entered the Sky Pillar sect of his dreams. His future path of martial arts was vast, and he was about to rise in the Sky Pillar sect. In the future, he would also become a martial arts expert. But now, Chu Tian wanted to cripple his life's worth of cultivation. He was beaten back to his original state, once again becoming the trash prince that everyone ridiculed. How could he accept this? You and he. Unparalleled anger and humiliation caused his entire body to tremble. He actually lost his mind and crawled up like a madman. His eyes were bloodshot as he shouted angrily, "No, I..." The Sky Pillar Hall was the most sacred place in the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Ling was just an outer disciple, but he dared to roar at the sect master. Chu Tianxing's face turned gloomy. His eyes flashed with a cold light. Not waiting for him to speak, the Discipline Hall elder, who was known as the Black-Face Fiend, scolded in a cold voice, "Evil creature, you have big dog guts. You dare to behave atrociously in the Sky Pillar Hall." His voice fell. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Ji Ling. Without any explanation, he stretched out his right palm and struck Ji Ling's dantian with a bang. Majestic golden true essence gushed out of his palm. It instantly destroyed Ji Ling's dantian and crippled his cultivation. Ji Ling was sent flying by the palm. He spat out blood and fell 3 meters away. He lay on the ground in a sorry state. Blood kept flowing out his mouth. He roared with grief and indignation. Why? Why is it like this? I don't want to. When Jianyu and Lu Mingyang saw Ji Ling's miserable end, they immediately lowered their heads and knelt on the ground, not daring to move. Compared to Ji Ling's ending, the two of them secretly rejoiced. At the same time, they hated Ji Tianxing even more. Chu Tianxing saw Ji Ling struggling on the ground with blood all over his face and roaring. He frowned and ordered, "Throw him out and expel him from the sect immediately." The Discipline Hall elder nodded and quickly walked to Ji Ling's side. He grabbed him by the collar and dragged him out of the sky pillar hall like a dead dog. At this time, Chu Tianxing announced again, Ji Tianxing, the truth of the matter has come to light. It proves that you are innocent. Go back to the storm courtyard to cultivate. Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bowed. He calmly said, Thank you, Secmaster. Other than that, he didn't say anything else. This matter was Ji Ling's conspiracy. He was involved in the conspiracy, so he was suspicious. He was imprisoned in the Dark Wind Cave for 13 days. The Discipline Hall also dealt with him according to the sect rules, so he had no complaints about the sect. Even if he was wronged, the sect didn't deliberately target him. It was enough that he was innocent. He understood that since he had entered a large sect with strict rules, he had to adapt to the sect's rules. Only in this way could he safely survive in the sect. Of course, after this matter, he learned his lesson and raised his vigilance. He would definitely not be easily harmed again. The matter of a disciple's infighting was thus settled. Chu Tianxing made the judgment, and the Discipline Hall elder would carry it out. Everyone bowed and left the Sky Pillar Hall. However, after Ji Tianxing left the Sky Pillar Hall, he didn't return to the Storm Courtyard. He had more important things to do, and that was to kill Ji Ling. Crippling Ji Ling's cultivation and expelling him from the sect was only the sect's punishment for him. However, Ji Tianxing still wanted revenge. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. When he walked down the Scarlet Firmament Peak, he saw Ji Ling at the foot of the mountain. He was being escorted out of the sect by a Discipline Hall deacon. Ji Tianxing silently followed, his eyes fixed on Ji Ling's back. His eyes surged with cold, killing intent. About an hour later, the Discipline Hall deacon escorted Ji Ling out of the Sky Pillar sect. At the foot of a mountain several miles away from the Sky Pillar sect, the Discipline Hall deacon threw Ji Ling to the side of the road and turned to return to the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Ling's clothes were stained with blood as he lay in the grass by the side of the road. He was still cursing furiously. Ji Tianxing, you little bastard, there will be a day when this king will take revenge. And the Sky Pillar sect, such a cold and heartless sect. One day, this king will wash away today's humiliation and exterminate you bastards. Just as he finished speaking, a cold laugh sounded in his ear. Ji Ling, you definitely won't have the chance to take revenge. Looking for recommendation tickets and bookmarks. This Friday will be faster. 6 chapters a day. I hope that brothers who like this book can give a 5-star review. Chapter 136. Ji Ling's body trembled when he heard the sneer. He immediately turned his head and saw a young man in a green robe standing 10 steps behind him. It was Ji Tianxing, whom he hated to the core and wanted to get rid of even in his dreams. Seeing Ji Tianxing appear with a sneer on his face, Ji Ling's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition. He stared at Ji Tianxing vigilantly and shouted, Ji Tianxing, what are you trying to do? What am I trying to do? Don't you know? Ji Tianxing sneered as he approached him. His entire body was filled with killing intent. Ji Ling immediately panicked and hurriedly retreated. With a face full of anger, she shouted, Ji Tianxing, don't forget your identity. You're still a subject of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Even if my cultivation is crippled, I'm still a prince of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Ji Tianxing sneered disdainfully. This is the ancient star realm, not the Royal Azure Dynasty. Your status as a prince is nothing here. Now that you have been expelled from the sect and your cultivation is crippled, you are a homeless dog. If I don't kill you now, when will I get my revenge? Ji Ling was filled with anxiety and fear. His eyes darted around as he tried to think of a way to escape. He retreated and shouted coldly, Ji Tianxing, don't forget, your Ji family is still in the Imperial City. Your father and your family are still subjects of the Royal Azure Dynasty. If you dare to kill me, the Imperial clan will definitely exterminate your entire Ji clan. Not even a chicken or dog will be spared. You better not be rash. Think of your father and your family. It would have been fine if Ji Ling didn't mention the Ji family and Ji Changkong, but when he used them to threaten Ji Tianxing became even more furious and murderous. Ji Ling, You despicable, shameless, cruel, and vicious bastard. How dare you use the G family to threaten me? You will die today, without a doubt. After saying that, Ji Tianxing didn't waste any more words with Ji Ling. His figure flashed as he rushed to Ji Ling's side and punched his head. Ji Ling's cultivation was crippled, and he was now an ordinary person. It was impossible for him to dodge Ji Tianxing's punch. Bang! With a muffled sound, Ji Ling was sent flying more than 3 meters away. He rolled into the bushes by the roadside. After suffering such a heavy blow, he did not faint. However, blood flowed from his mouth and nose, making him look even more hideous. He struggled to crawl out from the bushes and roared hysterically. Ji Tianxing. This is the ancient star. Ji Tianxing sneered disdainfully. This is no longer the territory of the sky-bearing sect. Moreover, you're no longer a disciple of the sky-bearing sect. Your life is as cheap as a dog's. That punch was for Ko. Now I want to avenge myself. Go to hell. He roared and rushed to Ji Ling again. He waved his fists and smashed them at Ji Ling's chest and throat. Bang! Bang! 2 muffled sounds rang out. Ji Ling was sent flying again. He flew more than 5 meters away and fell into the dense forest. He rolled a few times before coming to a stop. Then his head tilted and he breathed his last. There was no longer any sound. Dark red blood flowed out of his mouth and nose and sprinkled on the grass. Ji Tianxing's palms burst with violent true essence. He had already shattered Ji Ling's heart and throat. A moment later, Ji Tian walked to the side of Ji Ling's corpse and reached out to check his pulse and breathing. After confirming that Ji Ling was dead, Ji Tianxing turned and walked out of the forest. Standing on the bluestone path, he loosened his clenched fists and let out a long breath. The blood feud that had plagued him for 3 years had finally dissipated with Ji Ling's death. He had finally avenged Ji Ku and himself. Heaven's justice is clear. Retribution is not pleasant. Ji Tianxing roared at the sky, venting the hatred that had been suppressed in his heart. He felt refreshed. After a while, he quickly returned to the Sky Pillar sect. As for Ji Ling's corpse, he was too lazy to pay attention to it. This mountain range was uninhabited, and there were no Sky Pillar sect disciples patrolling it. There were many fierce beasts roaming about. It wouldn't be long before Ji Ling's corpse was eaten by the beasts. Half an hour later, Ji Tianxing returned to the Sky Pillar sect. He walked to the foot of the Sky Pillar peak, but didn't go up the mountain to return to the storm courtyard. He turned and walked to the Spirit Medicine peak. He decided to go to the Spirit Medicine Hall first to see the seriously injured Ji Ku. After he left, a black-robed figure appeared on the path at the foot of the mountain. This figure was a middle-aged man. It was the Discipline Hall deacon who had escorted Ji Ling away from the Sky Pillar sect. He quickly rushed to the Scarlet Firmament Peak and entered the Sky Pillar Hall. The hall was empty except for the sect master, Chu Tiansheng. He was sitting on the seat of honor with his eyes closed, as if he was waiting for something. After the Discipline Hall deacon entered the hall, he bowed to Chu Tiansheng before walking to him and reporting in a low voice. Reporting to the sect master, this subordinate secretly observed that Ji Tianxing had been tailing Ji Ling all the way in the forest 15 kilometers away. Chu Tiansheng had long expected this result. His expression didn't change as he calmly asked, "Are you sure Ji Ling is dead?" The Discipline Hall deacon nodded and said, "This subordinate is sure." "And that's good." Chu Tianxing nodded and said with an indifferent expression, "This matter is over. You may withdraw." The Discipline Hall deacon quickly bowed and excused himself from the hall. After a moment, Chu Tianxing muttered in a low voice, "This ending is just right. Ji Ling already knows the secret of our sect. How can I let him leave alive?" Clearly, he had already intended to kill Ji Ling when he ordered him to expel him from the sect. In the evening, the sky was dark. In the forest more than 10 kilometers away from the Sky Pillar sect, Ji Ling's corpse was still lying in the grass. The blood on the grass had already solidified. Ji Ling's corpse was also cold and gradually stiffened. Not far away in the forest, A few low beast roars could be heard from time to time. Clearly, wild beasts were approaching. There was no doubt that Jiling's corpse would become the wild beast's dinner when night fell. But at this moment, a black wind suddenly blew from the forest, and two balls of black fog appeared out of thin air. Swoosh! Swoosh! Two tall figures in black robes appeared out of thin air in the forest. Their bodies were shrouded in hazy black chi. They were the Blood Moon Commandery Princess and the High Priest of the Demon Tribe. They silently passed through the forest and arrived beside Jiling's corpse. The Blood Moon Commandery Princess lowered her voice and said, "According to our investigation, this child once entered the sealing formation with Chu Tianxing. He should be useful to us. High Priest, he just died not long ago. Can you check if you can use the Blood Demon's secret technique to extract his soul?" The High Priest stretched out his hand. His palm was filled with black fog that enveloped Jiling's corpse. He seemed to be using some secret technique. After a moment, he looked up at the Blood Moon Commandery Princess and nodded solemnly. Joy flashed through the Blood Moon Commandery Princess's eyes. She said in a deep voice, "Bring him back. We must use him." Then, the High Priest stretched out his hand and grabbed Jiling's corpse. He left the forest with the Blood Moon Commandery Princess and turned into black fog before disappearing. Chapter 137. When night fell, Ji Tianxing left the Spirit Medicine Hall and returned to the Wind Cloud Courtyard. He had just visited Ji Ku and chatted with her for a long time. Knowing that his life was not in danger and that she would recover after a month of rest, he was finally relieved. After returning to the Wind Cloud Courtyard, he didn't dare to sleep and quickly entered the secret room to heal and cultivate. The day after tomorrow was the end of the month, and Han Xiaoxing would be testing everyone's alchemy. Ji Tianxing had been locked up in the Dark Wind Cave for 10 days and was unable to practice alchemy. He had already fallen behind the other disciples. But even so, he wasn't willing to give up on the Wind Cloud Courtyard's first monthly exam and still wanted to participate in the exam the day after tomorrow. The night quickly passed. After a night of cultivation, Ji Tianxing's injuries had recovered a lot, and his complexion had clearly improved. The next morning, after washing up, he left the Wind Cloud Courtyard and headed to the Grand Peace Palace. Although he hadn't been to the Grand Peace Palace for 10 days, he had been locked up in the Dark Wind Cave and couldn't do as he wished. Now that he had regained his freedom, Han Xiaoxing's punishment of sweeping hadn't passed yet. He obviously had to follow the sect's rules and continue sweeping the Grand Peace Palace. When the sun rose, Ji Tianxing arrived at the entrance of the Grand Peace Palace. The mute sword servant guarding the door hadn't seen him for 10 days and was stunned when he saw his figure. Ji Tianxing could only explain to the sword servant before he was allowed to enter. After entering the Grand Peace Palace, he consciously took the broom and bamboo basket and swept the dust and leaves in the triple courtyard. However, he had only cleaned for a while when the pill room's door opened. Xiang Wuji opened the door and walked out. He stood under the eaves and yawned, stretching his body. His white hair and beard were still stained with medicinal dregs. When he saw Ji Tianxing in the courtyard, he couldn't help but be stunned. After he came back to his senses, he laughed and scolded, "You stinking brat, you haven't swept in half a month. How come you're back today?" Ji Tianxing hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed to him. Then he briefly explained the matter. After Xiang Wuji heard this, the smile on his face became even more mocking. He said with a smile, TSK, you're really unlucky. You've only been in the sect for less than a month, and you've already encountered so many troubles. You've even been locked up for half a month." Ji Tianxing was speechless and could only smile bitterly. Xiang Wuji yawned again and suddenly thought of something. He waved his hand and said, "Little brat, since you haven't swept the floor for half a month, you should do some work for this old man today. You don't have to sweep the floor anymore. Go to the pill room and help this old man keep an eye on the medicine in the pill furnace. Don't make any mistakes, or else this old man will beat you to death. This old man has stayed up all night. I'm going back to my room to sleep for a while." Then, without waiting for Ji Tianxing's approval, he went back to his room to sleep with his hands behind his back. Ji Tianxing revealed a helpless expression. He could only put down the broom and bamboo basket and enter the pill room to look after the pill furnace. There were 3 pill furnaces in the pill room. The bronze pill furnace in the middle, which was as tall as a person, was emitting green smoke. There was an array at the bottom of the furnace that was constantly emitting a raging fire. He didn't know what kind of medicine was placed in the pill furnace, but the smoke that came out carried a thick fragrance of grass and wood. What Ji Tianxing needed to do was very simple. He only needed to keep an eye on the pill furnace and ensure that no accidents occurred. As long as the array in the pill furnace didn't stop, the fire wouldn't be extinguished. Ji Tianxing sat next to the pill furnace. After staring at it for a while, he felt a little bored. He looked around and saw that on the table in the corner, there were a few old books. These books were all related to alchemy. They were flipped open and placed on the table. Ji Tianxing picked up one of the ancient books. After reading a few pages, his expression changed and a hint of joy flashed across his eyes. This ancient book contains profound knowledge about alchemy. Outer sect disciples can't even come into contact with it. I didn't expect that the old man would place these precious books on the table so casually. I have to read more when he's sleeping. It'll be difficult to see them again in the future. Thus, he sat in front of the table and carefully read the alchemy book. Time passed quietly. Unknowingly, half a day had passed. Ji Tianxing finished reading the entire book and didn't feel hungry or tired. After reading the entire alchemy book, his understanding of alchemy had deepened. He gained many insights and thoughts. Previously, he still had many things that he didn't understand about alchemy. Now that these problems were easily solved, he was enlightened. Unknowingly, his alchemy skills and knowledge had increased by a lot. At noon, Xiang Wuji was still sleeping in his room. He hadn't shown his face yet. Ji Tianxing put down the book and started to think about the content of the monthly examination tomorrow. The monthly examination is tomorrow. We have to refine the spirit accumulation pill, green jade pill, and heart-nourishing pill. It's a pity that I haven't practiced before. The chances of failure are very high. When he thought of this, he became anxious and worried. He frowned and thought for a while. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked at the bronze cauldron not far away. He then looked at the medicine cabinets around him. Suddenly, a bold idea popped up in his mind. The old man has a cauldron and all kinds of herbs. Why don't I borrow his alchemy room and try to refine those 3 pills? Anyway, the old man has a good heart. Those 3 pills are only top-grade elemental level. The ingredients aren't that expensive. The old man shouldn't mind, right? After hesitating for a while, Ji Tianxing mustered up his courage and began to try refining the pills. He followed the formula of the 3 pills and gathered all the ingredients in medicine cabinets. Then, he activated the array of the bronze cauldron and used his true yuan fire to preheat the cauldron. When everything was ready, he began to refine the spirit accumulation pill. He followed the fixed order and placed the 12 herbs into the cauldron. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The spirit accumulation pill should be ready. However, when Ji Tianxing opened the lid of the cauldron, he smelled a burnt smell. When he opened the cauldron, he found that there were no pills in the cauldron. There was only a pile of black ash. My first attempt at refining pills, and I actually failed. Luckily, no one saw it. Otherwise, it would be so embarrassing. Ji Tianxing was a little embarrassed. He hurriedly cleaned up the black ash in the cauldron. However, Xiang Wuji had come to the alchemy room. He was leaning on the door and looking at him with a cold smile. The ingredients in the alchemy room are correct. The steps are also correct. But you forgot to control the fire. You idiot. You only know how to follow the instructions. How can you successfully refine the pills? Ji Tianxing's body shook, and he turned to look at the door. Seeing Xiang Wuji, he hurriedly squeezed out an awkward smile. Senior, why are you awake? Aren't you going to sleep a little longer? The cold smile on Xiang Wuji's face deepened as he scolded. This old man can smell something burning from 3 rooms away. How can I sleep? I'm afraid that if I sleep a little longer, you'll burn all my herbs like firewood. Chapter 138. Even though Xiang Wuji's tone was unfriendly and he even scolded Ji Tianxing, But Ji Tianxing realized that the old man didn't seem to have any intention of stopping or blaming him. He thought back to what the old man said and instantly understood the reason for his failure. So, it's because I didn't control the fire properly and turned the pill into ashes. At this time, Xiang Wuji walked to the corner and sat on the table, looking down at Ji Tianxing. It's just a spirit-nourishing pill. If you can't make it today, don't even think about walking out of Graydon Palace. Brat, prick up your ears and listen carefully. It takes an hour to make the spirit-nourishing pill. There are 4 stages in which you need to control the fire. When Xianming Master enters the cauldron, you need to control the gentle fire. When AI Song Z enters the cauldron, you need to control the martial fire. Even though Xiang Wuji's attitude was domineering and his tone was disdainful and mocking. However, Ji Tianxing was still grateful to him and listened attentively to his advice. After listening, he cleaned the cauldron and started to make the pill again. This time, he was extra careful and remembered every step of the process. He followed Xiang Wuji's instructions and controlled the fire in the cauldron at the crucial time. Unknowingly, another hour passed, and the spirit-nourishing pill should be out of the cauldron. Ji Tianxing was a little nervous and slowly lifted the lid of the cauldron. A faint medicinal fragrance wafted out and instantly lifted his spirits. He looked down and saw a light green pill lying in the array pattern at the bottom of the cauldron. It's done. I finally made it. Ji Tianxing's face was full of smiles as he murmured. Xiang Wuji was holding a green calabash and drinking. Hearing his words, he couldn't help but pout. With the guidance of a grandmaster like me, if you still can't make it, then you might as well kill yourself. As he spoke, he reached out and grabbed the cauldron. Even from a dozen meters away, he caught the spirit-nourishing pill in the cauldron and looked at it. Yes, it's a top-grade origin grade pill and has 3 patterns. It's barely passable. After saying that, the black thumb ring on his thumb flashed with a white light, and the spirit-nourishing pill was put into it. Ji Tianxing stared blankly for a moment before he asked doubtfully, "Senior, what do you mean by 3 pill veins?" Xiang Wuji glanced at him and said indifferently, "Pill veins. Only when the pill is transparent and the medicinal properties of the pill are high will they appear. The more pill veins there are, the higher the quality of the pill." Ji Tianxing was suddenly enlightened. He nodded and said, "Disciple understands. This principle is just like forging. Cloud patterns will only appear on the blade if the quality of the sword is high. On the other hand, those swords with flat and smooth blades without any markings are usually just ordinary goods." Only then did Xiang Wuji reveal a gratified smile. He nodded and said, "And you aren't that stupid. You got it so quickly." Ji Tianxing smiled, but didn't say anything. In his heart, he thought, if that's the case, then the key to Deacon Han's test is the pill veins. Basically, everyone can successfully refine 3 origin grade pills, all of which are top-grade origin grade pills. If you want to differentiate between good and bad, you have to look at the number of pill veins. Next, he tried to refine the spirit-nourishing pill again. This time, he was even more focused and serious. After half an hour, the spirit-nourishing pill was refined. It actually had 4 pill veins. Xiang Wuji reached out and grabbed the pill. He looked at it for a moment before putting it back into his thumb ring. Not bad, not bad. You have a talent for alchemy. Don't go back to the Wind Cloud Courtyard. Stay here with me and be an alchemy boy." Ji Tianxing didn't say anything. He pretended not to hear him and continued to refine the green jade pill. With his previous alchemy experience, he succeeded in refining the emerald jade pill for the first time. However, only 1 pill pattern appeared. Xiang Wuji gave him a few pointers on the side. He tried for the second time and finally raised the number of pill veins to 3. Outside the window, the sun had already set. According to tradition, Ji Tianxing should leave the Grand Peace Palace at this time. However, Xiang Wuji didn't chase him away, and he didn't want to leave either. He continued to refine the heart-nourishing pill. The first time he refined the heart-nourishing pill, there was a problem with his technique. He failed, and the ingredients turned into black ash. He was very embarrassed. Xiang Wuji also angrily scolded him. However, after scolding him, Xiang Wuji still pointed out his mistake and gave him a few pointers. Ji Tianxing tried for the second time and finally succeeded in refining a heart-nourishing pill with 2 pill veins. He wasn't satisfied with this and tried again. After spending almost 2 hours, he finally refined a spirit-nourishing pill with 4 pill veins. At this time, night had already fallen. It was very late. Ji Tianxing wanted to continue. He wanted to practice a few more times to ensure that he could pass the test tomorrow. However, Xiang Wuji angrily scolded him and chased him out of the alchemy room. "Kid, are you addicted to playing? Are you treating this old man's alchemy room as your practice field? You wasted so many of this old man's ingredients. This old man feels the need to punish you by sweeping the floor for another month." Without waiting for Xiang Wuji to finish speaking, Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bid farewell. He ran out of the Grand Peace Palace like a wisp of smoke. When Ji Tianxing returned to the storm courtyard, it was already late at night. Early the next morning, the storm courtyard's main hall rang with the sound of the gathering bell. Ji Tianxing had already finished his cultivation and walked out of the secret room. When he heard the bell, he quickly rushed to the main hall. When he entered the main hall, Han Xiusheng and Du Wu weren't there. However, a few disciples had already arrived. Those disciples hadn't seen Ji Tianxing for more than 10 days. They had already heard about the internal strife between Ji Tianxing and Ji Ling. Although the truth had already come to light yesterday, Ji Ling was expelled from the sect, and Ji Tianxing was proven innocent. However, the gazes with which those disciples looked at Ji Tianxing were still filled with disdain and ridicule, especially Shi Jingxing and Emo. They had long been resentful of Ji Tianxing. At this time, they were discussing as if there was no one else around. Haha, Ji Tianxing, that kid, was imprisoned in the Dark Wind Cave for more than 10 days. I reckon that his brain isn't normal, right? If you ask me, we should definitely stay away from people from a small country like the Clear Sky Kingdom. They left thousands of miles to come to the sect. Not only did they not unite and help each other, they even schemed against each other and set each other up. We must be on guard against these insidious villains who only know how to fight among themselves. Emo said sarcastically while staring at Ji Tianxing with a sneer. His eyes were full of contempt. Shi Jingxing also nodded in agreement. With a face full of disdain, he said, "Yes, especially that Ji Ling. She even wanted to murder her own niece. How vicious." Fortunately, he was expelled from the sect. Otherwise, we would all be on tenterhooks. The ancients said that barren hills and turbulent rivers have unruly people. I think this is true. The people of the Clear Sky Kingdom are despicable, sinister, hypocritical, and disgusting. Chapter 139. Emo and Shi Jingxing were singing the same tune, cursing at the mulberry tree and the locust tree. The other disciples looked on coldly. They looked at Ji Tianxing with ridicule, taking pleasure in his misfortune. Ji Tianxing's face suddenly became gloomy. He stared at Emo and Shi Jingxing with cold eyes. "You two only know how to criticize others behind their backs. Do you have the face to criticize others with such despicable behavior? Moreover, today is the end of the month exam. You two are jumping up and down like clowns. Aren't you afraid that you will fail the exam and be laughed at by others?" Emo and Shi Jingxing's faces suddenly changed. They stared at Ji Tianxing angrily. "Boy, who do you think you are? How dare you scold us? Humph! You were locked in the Dark Wind Cave for more than 10 days. You still dare to participate in the exam? I'm afraid you haven't even learned how to refine pills. When you fail in refining pills, you will be scolded in public by Deacon Han. Let's see if you still have the face to stay in the Wind Cloud Courtyard." Ji Tianxing looked at the two of them from the corner of his eyes and sneered disdainfully. Even if my alchemy skills are ordinary, I'm still much better than you two trash who only know how to talk." What Emo and Shi Jingxing were most proud of was that their attainments in alchemy surpassed other disciples. Being scolded by Ji Tianxing in public, the two were furious. Their faces were ashen. "Ji Tianxing, you are courting death. Boy, I think you are tired of living." When the two of them finished speaking, Another two disciples walked into the hall. One of them was Niahao. Niahao saw Ji Tianxing and quickly walked over. He greeted him with a smile and asked about the situation with concern. Seeing Emo and Shi Jingqing's angry faces, he guessed that the two had a conflict with Ji Tianxing. Therefore, he patted Ji Tianxing's shoulder and comforted him with a smile. "Brother Ji, don't mind them. Don't ruin your mood." Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "That's right. Two mad dogs are randomly biting people. I can't bite back. After all, I'm a human." Niahao chuckled and glanced at Emo and Shi Jingqing with a playful look. Emo and Shi Jing's faces were livid with anger. They looked like they were gnashing their teeth, but they didn't dare to do anything on the spot. After all, Han, Xiaosheng, and Du had already arrived at the entrance of the hall. Behind the two deacons, there was a disciple in a green robe following behind them. When Ji Tianxing saw this person, he was stunned and his face turned gloomy. Because this green-robed disciple was actually Lu Mingyang. Han Xiaosheng and Du Wu passed through the main hall and stood at the head seats. When all the disciples had arrived and quieted down, Han Xiaosheng announced seriously, "Everyone knows that Ji Ling has been expelled from our sect. From today onwards, Lu Mingyang will join our Wind Cloud Academy. He will cultivate and study with everyone." Han Xiaosheng only gave a simple introduction. He didn't mention that Lu Mingyang was banished to the outer sect and came to the Wind Cloud Academy. After introducing Lu Mingyang, he announced, "Today is the last day of the month. It's also the end of the month assessment day for our academy. In this month, everyone has meticulously studied the Tao of alchemy. In a moment, I will examine the results of your studies and see if you've studied diligently." After saying this, he divided the 10 disciples into 2 rows and sat on opposite sides of the main hall. Du Wu also took out 10 pill furnaces from his black thumb ring and the materials to refine 3 types of pills. He distributed them to everyone. When everyone was ready, Han Xiaosheng loudly announced, "From now on, you will refine the spirit accumulation pill, green jade pill, and heart-nourishing pill. The time limit is 4 hours. If you don't succeed after the time limit, you will be considered a failure. Failure will be punished. After 4 hours, I will rank you according to the quality of the pills you refine." After Han Xiaosheng finished speaking, the assessment officially began. Ji Tianxing was the same as the other 9 disciples. He didn't dare to waste any time. He wholeheartedly immersed himself in refining the pills. Although he was in a hurry, he wasn't impatient at all. He first checked and cleaned the copper pill furnace. After removing some of the impurities in the furnace, he activated the true fire array inside the furnace. His palms were pressed against the furnace. He continuously poured his true essence into the furnace, urging the array to release the true fire. After the true fire stabilized, the furnace was preheated. Only then did he place the herbs into the furnace step by step. He remembered the steps of alchemy. In his mind, he recalled Xiang Wuji's instructions. He methodically began to refine the spirit accumulation pill. The other disciples were the same. Their faces were full of concentration and their movements were very fast. Han Xiaosheng and Du Wu stood at the head of the table. They looked down at the 10 disciples and silently observed them. Time quietly passed. 2 hours quickly passed. After 2 hours of observation, the 2 deacons also saw some clues. Emo and Shi Jingqing, who were born in a family of alchemy, had the highest attainments in alchemy. Their movements were simple and smooth. It was obvious that they had a lot of experience. As for the other disciples, although their movements were a bit anxious and clumsy, they had also started. It was obvious that they had studied and practiced. Ji Tianxing's performance surprised Han Xiaosheng and Du Wu. The 2 of them thought that Ji Tianxing, who had been imprisoned in the Dark Wind Cave for more than 10 days, wouldn't be able to practice alchemy. It was very likely that he wouldn't be able to pass the assessment. However, they saw that Ji Tianxing's movements were very skillful. His alchemy techniques and steps were also very clever. It was as if he had been taught by an expert. The 2 of them secretly looked at each other and saw the smile in each other's eyes. Then, their gazes fell on Lu Mingyang. Lu Mingyang's expression was a bit anxious. His eyes contained a trace of confusion. He was refining pills while also studying. Looking at his posture, it was obvious that he had never practiced alchemy before. However, Han Xiaosheng and Du Wu had already expected that he would perform so poorly. He had just entered the Wind Cloud courtyard. The two of them already had an answer in their hearts. In this month's end assessment, Lu Mingyang would definitely be at the bottom. Unknowingly, the 4-hour deadline was almost up. When there was still half an hour until the deadline, Shi Jingsheng was the first to finish refining the third pill. He finally let out a sigh of relief. He secretly looked at the other disciples. Seeing that they had all finished their tasks, he couldn't help but reveal a smug sneer. Not long after, Emo also finished refining the third heart-nourishing pill. Only then did he raise his head to look at the others. Seeing that Shi Jingsheng had already finished his task and was looking at him with a faint smile, he couldn't help but frown and reveal a trace of hostility. It was obvious that the two of them had ignored the other disciples and treated each other as competitors. After another 100 breaths of time, Ji Tianxing also stopped refining. His face revealed a gratified smile. Beads of sweat could be seen on his forehead. His face was also slightly pale. After all, in the past 4 hours, he had used all his strength to refine the pills. His true essence and mental energy had been greatly consumed. However, he was certain that the 3 pills he had just refined were of higher quality than the ones he had refined in the Great Peace Palace yesterday. Chapter 140. The 4-hour time limit was finally over. The 9 disciples stopped and retracted their hands, ending the refining process. Only Lu Mingyang was sweating profusely and was still fiddling with the cauldron. Han Xiaoxing knocked on the table with his finger and said in a deep voice, "Time's up. Now, take out the pills you just refined and hand them to Deacon. I'll judge the quality and rank you." Ji Tianxing and 8 disciples took out the pills they refined and handed them to Du Wu. Only Lu Mingyang sat on the spot dejectedly and looked at the cauldron gloomily. Black smoke was still rising from the cauldron, and a burnt smell was constantly wafting out. The few disciples closer to him could not help but chuckle. Immediately after, Du Wu handed the first batch of pills to Han Xiaoxing. There were a total of 3 pills in this batch. Han Xiaoxing picked up the pills and observed them carefully before announcing the results. Wei Jinhong successfully refined 3 pills. The Spirit Accumulation pill has 1 pattern, the Green Jade pill has no pattern, and the Heart Nourishing pill has 1 pattern. There are a total of 3 pills with 2 patterns. When he heard Han Xiaoxing's words, the disciple called Wei Jinhong was stunned and revealed a puzzled expression. He was not the only one. The other disciples were also stunned and looked at Han Xiaoxing in confusion. Only Ji Tianxing, Shi Jingsheng, and Emo remained calm, as if they had a card up their sleeves. Han Xiaoxing swept his gaze across everyone with a dignified expression and said in a deep voice, "Looking at your puzzled faces, you must want to ask me what pill patterns mean, right?" Although the disciples did not speak, they all nodded secretly. Han Xiaoxing shot a glance at Shi Jingsheng and opened his mouth to say, "Shi Jingsheng, you explain to them what pill marks mean." Being named by Han Xiaoxing, Shi Jingsheng revealed a smug smile, as though he had received a great honor. He hurriedly stood up and said confidently, "The so-called pill patterns are the patterns on the surface of the pill. The higher the quality of the pill, the more pill patterns there are." Han Xiaoxing nodded and gestured for him to sit down before lecturing everyone. "Do you understand now? I let you try refining pills, but did not explain the pill patterns to you, because I wanted you to study and learn. From identifying medicinal herbs and prescribing to refining pills today, I have always taught you half of it and let you learn the other half by yourself. This is how I train you. I did not expect you to still not understand. You really disappoint me." The few disciples who were being reprimanded immediately looked ashamed and lowered their heads in fear and trepidation. Then, Han Xiaoxing picked up the second batch of pills and observed them for a while. Wu Lishan has successfully concocted 3 pills with a total of 3 veins. Then it was the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th batch. Han Xiaoxing also announced the results of the 4 disciples in turn. D. Buffon has successfully refined 3 elixirs with a total of 2 elixir veins. Gu Jiaming only managed to concoct 2 pills with a total of 1 pill pattern. Niahao has successfully concocted 3 pills with a total of 4 pill veins. The results of these 6 disciples were mediocre in Han Xiuxing's eyes. The one with the best performance was only able to refine 4 pill patterns. Next, it was the 7th batch of pills. After observing for a while, Han Xiuxing's expression softened, and he said in a gratified tone, he most successfully refined 3 pills with 8 patterns. Hearing this, Shi Jingsheng, who was originally nervous, suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and revealed a proud smile. Sure enough, after Han Xiuxing observed the 8th batch of pills, he announced, Shi Jingsheng successfully refined 3 pills with 9 patterns. Emo's face immediately darkened. He looked at Shi Jingsheng unwillingly, and his eyes were filled with anger. Shi Jingsheng's face was full of smiles. He was beaming with joy and had a smug attitude. Although Ji Tianxing and Lu Mingyang's results had not been announced, he already had victory in his hands. He thought that he would win without a doubt. As far as he was concerned, neither Lu Mingyang nor Ji Tianxing had ever practiced pill refining. They would thank the heavens if they could successfully refine 3 pills. They would definitely not surpass him. To Shi Jingsheng, the generous reward of first place belonged to him. At this moment, it was Lu Mingyang's turn. Han Xiuxing looked at a broken pill and a pile of black ashes on the table and could not help but frown. He said expressionlessly, Lu Mingyang failed the test. He only said a few words and did not make any comments. Several disciples all showed a mocking smile, secretly sizing up Lu Mingyang. Their eyes were somewhat playful, especially Shi Jingsheng. Not only did he reveal a contemptuous smile, he could not help but curl his lips as if he was very disdainful of Lu Mingyang. The last batch of pills. This is Ji Tianxing's. Han Xiuxing picked up the 3 pills on the table and observed them one by one. When he saw the first spirit accumulation pill, he could not help but raise his eyebrows and glance at Ji Tianxing with a surprised look. Then he put down the spirit accumulation pill and picked up the second green jade pill. When he saw the patterns on the surface of the green jade pill, his eyes flashed, and he was even more surprised. When it came to the third heart-nourishing pill, his eyes suddenly widened, and he looked at Ji Tianxing with a face full of surprise. Looking at his expression and reaction, it was as if he had seen something unbelievable. All the disciples in the hall saw Han Xiuxing's reaction. The few disciples revealed doubtful expressions and secretly sized up Ji Tianxing. Only Shi Jingxing's expression changed, and he vaguely had a bad premonition. He glanced sideways at Ji Tianxing with eyes full of vigilance and hostility. Although he guessed that Ji Tianxing might have achieved amazing results, which was why Deacon Han was so surprised. But logic told him that it was absolutely impossible. How could a guy who was locked up in the Black Wind Cave for more than 10 days and did not have time to learn alchemy surpass him? A genius who was proficient in alchemy. At this moment, Shi Jingxing's emotions were very complicated and he was somewhat uneasy. He stared at Han Xiuxing and his nerves were tense as he waited for the results. Finally, Han Xiuxing revealed a face full of smiles and said in a gratified tone, Ji Tianxing successfully refined 3 pills with a total of 12 pill patterns. When his voice fell, the hall fell silent instantly. All the disciples widened their eyes and revealed looks of disbelief, especially Shi Jingsheng, who was dumbstruck like a wooden chicken and was petrified. He only came back to his senses after a moment and growled indignantly. That's impossible. 12 pill patterns? Could it be that every single one of his pills reached 4 patterns? He's not proficient in alchemy and was even locked up in the Black Wind Cave for half a month. He had no time to practice at all. Even a genius like me who's proficient in alchemy can't refine every single pill to 4 patterns. Shi Jingxing's emotions were so shocked and indignant that he lost his voice and roared for everyone to hear clearly. The hall immediately quietened down. Han Xiuxing frowned and said in a low voice, Sure, Jingcheng, although you refined 9 pill patterns, this result is still considered outstanding. But you're too conceited. Do you dare to call yourself a genius in alchemy with such results? If you don't believe that someone else refined 12 pill patterns, then come and see for yourself. Sure, Jingqing's expression was ugly to the extreme. After hesitating for a moment, he got up and walked to Han Xiuxing's side and picked up the 3 pills to observe carefully. When he saw clearly that there were indeed 12 pill patterns in those 3 pills, his face turned pale and his entire body trembled. He raised his head to look at Ji Tianxing and saw that Ji Tianxing was also looking at him with a cold smile, his eyes full of contempt. Sure, Jingcheng suddenly recalled what Ji Tianxing said to him before the test started. Humiliation. This result was not only a huge blow to him, but it was also a severe humiliation. Chapter 141. Although Ji Tianxing didn't say anything. However, the sneer on his face and the disdain in his eyes were like a silent slap on Sure Jingqing's face. Sure Jingqing's face was ashen as he suppressed his anger and humiliation and walked down the high platform. He walked back to his seat and looked down at his feet, muttering absent-mindedly. How is this possible? Why is it like this? First place is obviously mine. I studied alchemy for 5 years, and I can't even compare to a bastard from a small country. I can't accept this. Sure, Jingcheng secretly clenched his fists and turned his head to glare at Ji Tianxing. However, Ji Tianxing ignored him and looked up at Han Xiuxing. At the same time, Han Xiuxing loudly announced the results of the assessment. Lu Mingyang failed this assessment and will be punished to clean the storm courtyard for a month. The quality of the elixirs refined by Ji Tianxing is the best. You will receive 2 profound gold secret elixirs and a profound level upper grade martial skill. The rules of the courtyard are like this: reward the strong and punish the weak. I hope that in the future, you will study hard and don't slack off. After saying this, Han Xiuxing took out 2 pure gold pills and rewarded them to Ji Tianxing. As for the profound level upper grade martial art, Ji Tianxing had to go to the martial arts pavilion to choose and receive it. After giving out the rewards, Han Xiuxing announced the end of the assessment and left the main hall with Du Wu. After the 2 deacons left, all the disciples turned their heads to look at Ji Tianxing, revealing complicated expressions. Sure, Jingqing and Emo's faces were full of anger. They coldly glared at Ji Tianxing but didn't say anything. Before the assessment began, they were proud of themselves and ridiculed Ji Tianxing in front of everyone because he couldn't refine pills and how he would have the face to stay in the storm courtyard. In the end, Ji Tianxing won first place and trampled them both. This caused the 2 of them to be so ashamed that they wanted nothing more than to find a hole to crawl into. Their hearts were filled with grievances and unwillingness. They quickly walked out of the hall and returned to their rooms. They did not want to see Ji Tianxing's smug look. The other disciples all stared at the mystic gold secret pill in Ji Tianxing's hand, revealing a strong look of envy and jealousy. The profound gold secret pill. This is a high-grade black rank medicinal pill, priceless. This kind of pill has the best effect for a metal-attributed true essence martial artist. Not only can it greatly increase their strength, but it can also refine their metal-attributed true essence. This is definitely a spirit pill that can't be bought with money. I didn't expect Deacon Han to take out 2 mystic gold secret pills as the reward. If I had known earlier, even if I didn't eat or sleep for a month, I would have worked hard to refine pills. Sigh, the world is unpredictable. Who would have thought that Sure Jingqing and Emo, who were proficient in the art of alchemy, would not be able to take first place, and instead, Ji Tianxing, a layman, would take first place. How strange. Ha ha. This matter can only be blamed on Sure Jingqing and Emo. They deserve to be humiliated in front of everyone today. Yes, they knew that the content of this month's test was alchemy. How arrogant and despotic they were before. They didn't put us in their eyes at all. Ji Tianxing silently put away the 2 mystic gold secret pills. Listening to the disciples' whispers, he could not help but reveal a trace of smile. He could hear that Shi Jingxing and Emo were too arrogant before, which had caused the other disciples dissatisfaction. Today, he had taken first place and made Shi Jingxing and Emo lose face. The other disciples also felt relieved and took pleasure in his misfortune. Although he looked calm and indifferent, he was actually a little surprised and pleasantly surprised. Before, he had never thought of taking first place. He only wanted to pass the test successfully and not disappoint Deacon Han, and not let the other disciples see him as a joke. He also did not expect that after practicing for a day in the Great Peace Palace and being scolded and taught by the stinky old man several times, he could refine such a high-quality pill and take first place. Although the stinky old man's temper is a little strange and irritable, he has amazing skills and is also good to me. How about I continue to sweep the floor in the Great Peace Palace tomorrow? Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing suddenly felt that compared to his harvest in this month, the tiredness of sweeping the floor was nothing. At this time, Niahao walked over and patted him on the shoulder. "Brother Ji, congratulations. I really did not expect the results of the test to be so amazing. You really opened our eyes today." Niahao smiled and cupped his hands to congratulate him. His smile was very sincere. Ji Tianxing modestly said a few words and walked out of the main hall side by side with him. Niahao returned to his room. Ji Tianxing left the storm courtyard and went to the martial arts pavilion to choose a martial arts cultivation method. The martial arts pavilion was located at the peak of the towering sky peak. It was a magnificent and majestic palace. On the way to the martial arts pavilion, Ji Tianxing was in a good mood. He was silently calculating in his heart. Fortunately, the reward that Deacon Han gave me was to let me choose my own martial arts cultivation method. If he gave me a cultivation method that I could not use, that would be too much of a pity. I am different from ordinary martial artists. Not only do I cultivate the sword art Dao, but I also cultivate the flying star sword art. Ordinary sword arts are useless to me. After thinking about it, it seems that what I lack the most is a light body cultivation method. Since that is the case, I will choose a light body cultivation method later. Ji Tianxing had wanted to cultivate a light body cultivation method a long time ago. Unfortunately, he never had the chance. This time, he had obtained first place in the test and had the qualifications to choose a black class upper grade martial arts cultivation method. To him, it was simply a timely gift. After arriving at the martial arts pavilion, he entered the main hall on the first floor. He took out his identity token and handed it to the black-robed deacon guarding the martial arts pavilion. The deacon only allowed him to enter after asking about the situation and briefly introduced the layout of the martial arts pavilion. The first floor of the martial arts pavilion's main hall is filled with origin-level martial arts manuals. The black-class martial arts manuals are all placed on the second floor of the main hall. The third floor of the main hall is filled with miscellaneous manuals. Ji Tianxing understood that the so-called miscellaneous manuals referred to alchemy, array formation, forging, and so on. He went straight to the second floor and walked through the spacious main hall filled with bookshelves. He carefully selected the martial arts cultivation method that he wanted. The Sky Pillars sect had been established for 1,000 years and had an incomparably deep foundation. It could be seen from all aspects. Just the martial arts pavilion that was open to inner and outer sect disciples had no less than 100,000 martial arts cultivation methods. Even if it was a precious black class cultivation method, there were at least 10,000 books in the entire second floor of the main hall. Ji Tianxing shuttled through the bookshelves and spent a full 2 hours before finally choosing a cultivation method called Shadowless Step. It was said that after cultivating this black class upper grade shadowless step to the extreme, one could reach the mysterious realm of walking as if they were flying and landing without a shadow. Although Ji Tianxing felt that these words were a bit exaggerated, he was still filled with anticipation. After leaving the martial arts pavilion, he couldn't wait to return to the storm courtyard. As soon as he returned to his room, he entered the secret chamber and prepared to cultivate in seclusion. This time, not only did he have to comprehend and cultivate the shadowless step, but he also had to consume the precious black gold secret pill. Ji Tianxing's innate attribute was metal. He believed that after consuming the black gold secret pill, his strength would increase explosively. His metal-attributed true essence would also become more powerful and domineering. Chapter 142. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. After Ji Tianxing took a mystic gold secret elixir, he cultivated in the secret chamber for 2 days before stopping to rest. At this time, he had refined 60% of the mystic gold secret elixir. His strength had increased tremendously, and he had successfully reached LV7 of the true element realm. The remaining 40% of the elixir was distributed in his limbs and bones, and would continue to increase his strength in the future. The surging true essence in his body had also turned pure gold, and its power was very sharp and fierce. In addition, with the help of the mystic gold secret elixir, he had also refined one of his main meridians into a sword vein. Out of his 9 meridians, 3 of them had already been refined into sword veins. Ji Tianxing had a premonition that when he refined all 9 meridians into sword veins, his strength would reach the mystic comprehending realm. He believed that day would not be too far away. After resting for a while, he took out the secret manual of shadowless steps and studied it carefully with the help of the light on the wall. This secret manual only had 18 pages, and each page only had a few hundred words and a picture. In the picture was a small person in a strange posture. The combination of the picture and the words made it easier for him to understand the cultivation method of shadowless steps. After reading through the entire manual, he roughly understood the uniqueness and mystical effects of the shadowless steps. The key to ordinary lightness skills lies in how the waist and legs exert force and leverage. But this shadowless steps is more profound and complicated. It actually requires the mobilization of the joints and strength of the whole body, and it also requires the training of breathing rhythm. Even the weather and terrain can be used to leverage force. In different environments, the effects of shadowless steps will be different. Amazing, really amazing. Ji Tianxing put down the book, and his face was full of amazement. Then, he began to practice according to the cultivation method of shadowless steps. In the evening, the sun was about to set. At the peak of Red Cloud Peak, in a palace called White Cloud Hall, Yin Yao, in a long white dress, was standing under the eaves of the corridor on the 3rd floor of the palace, calmly looking at the setting sun. Not long after, a young man with a sturdy body and a valiant appearance came behind her. This person was Hao Meng. Although Yin Yao didn't turn around, she already knew that Hao Meng had come. She asked calmly, "Junior brother Hao, is there any result from that matter?" Hao Meng nodded and smiled. "Eldest senior sister, 3 days ago, you asked me to investigate Ji Tianxing's background and bloodline. I immediately sent people to investigate. Just now, I received news that there are results. The truth is, as you said, eldest senior sister. Ji Tianxing does indeed possess the Xian sword bloodline. That is the bloodline of the Ji clan. This matter is not difficult to investigate." Then, Hao Meng took out a secret letter and handed it to Yin Yao. Yin Yao took out the letter and read it for a while. She realized that the results of the investigation in the letter were exactly the same as what Ji Tianxing had told her. She already had a plan in mind, so she put the letter into a jade ring on her finger. Hao Meng walked to her side and held the railing of the corridor with both hands. He looked at the setting sun in the sky with a bitter smile on his face. "Eldest senior sister, it's all my fault. Senior brother Bai and I didn't do our job well. We mistakenly thought that Ji Ling was the person the sect was looking for. In the end, we made such a big mistake and disappointed the sect master." Yin Yao said calmly, "It's not your fault. After all, when Master gave a mission, he only said that he was looking for a person who could change fate. He didn't give any specific information." Hearing her words, the guilt in Hao Meng's heart lessened a lot. He scratched his head and said with a smile, "When we were in the Imperial Qing dynasty, senior brother Bai and I were very puzzled. Why did you take care of Ji Tianxing so much? Now it seems that eldest senior sister is the wisest. You already had the foresight. However, there's one thing I don't understand. Since eldest senior sister knew that Ji Tianxing was the person the sect master was looking for, Why didn't you tell the sect master? Why did you ask me to secretly investigate Ji Tianxing? At the mention of this question, Yin Yao frowned slightly. After pondering for a moment, she explained, I believe in Ji Tianxing, but I can't rashly tell Master about this. I have to show the corresponding evidence to make Master believe me. Moreover, I know Master's nature very well. After this incident with Ji Ling, Master will not easily believe this result. Although Hao Meng looked burly and honest, he was actually very quick-witted. So that's how it is, I understand. He nodded and said with a smile, In that case, I'll leave this matter to you, eldest senior sister. If you have any instructions, feel free to look for me. Yin Yao nodded slightly and didn't say anything more. Hao Meng cupped his hands and said goodbye before turning to go downstairs. Yin Yao stood under the eaves of the corridor for a while until the sun completely disappeared. Then she turned and went downstairs. Then she left her residence, White Cloud Hall, and went to the Sky Raising Hall not far away to find Sect Master Chu Tianxing. Night was about to fall, but Chu Tianxing wasn't in the Sky Raising Hall. When Yin Yao found him, he was busy dealing with the sect's affairs in the study. Yin Yao stopped at the door of the study and bowed. Master, disciple has something important to report. Chu Tianxing put down the file in his hand, rubbed his eyebrows, and turned to look at Yin Yao at the door. What's the matter? Come in and talk. Yin Yao walked into the study, took out a letter from the jade ring, and placed it on the desk in front of Chu Tianxing. Master, according to the prophecy of the star chart, the person our sect is looking for is from the royal Azure dynasty and has the bloodline of the Black Sword sect. Disciple has investigated and confirmed that this person is Ji Tianxing. This secret letter is the result of the investigation of our sect's spies in the royal Azure dynasty. Please have a look. Chu Tianxing immediately raised his eyebrows, and a look of surprise flashed in his eyes. Ji Tianxing? It's actually him? He quickly opened the letter and took out the secret letter to read carefully. A moment later, he finished reading the contents of the letter and couldn't help but nod. I see. I didn't expect this matter to be so complicated. No wonder Ji Tianxing and Ji Ling have a blood feud. Yin Yao nodded and said, The bloodline of the Black Sword sect is the ancestral bloodline of the Ji family. Ji Ling used an evil item like the soul-seizing bead and carefully planned to seize the bloodline of the Black Sword sect. Chu Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment before saying in a low voice, However, Ji Tianxing only once had the bloodline of the Black Sword sect. His bloodline has been taken away by Ji Ling. I'm afraid he can't restart the 9 Dragons Trapping Devil array now. This matter is of great importance. The Underground Devil's Den is a secret place of our sect. Master has already made a mistake on Ji Ling's matter. How can I make the same mistake again? Yin Yao, even if you help Master investigate the truth and results, Master can't let Ji Tianxing try to restart the array. He has only been in the sect for a month. He may not have much loyalty and trust in our sect. Master needs to slowly observe him. Chapter 143. Yin Yao was the head disciple of the Sky-Bearing sect and had been raised as the successor of the sect master. She had the right to ask about and understand the important matters of the sect. She had followed Chu Tianxing for many years, so she knew his nature very well. She had expected Chu Tianxing to have such a reaction after learning the truth. She cupped her hands and bowed to Chu Tianxing. Master, disciple is only helping you solve your problem. Disciple doesn't have any better suggestions on how to deal with this matter. It's all up to you. Chu Tianxing nodded and said with a gratified expression, You're considerate. Go and rest. Yin Yao cupped her hands and left the study. After she left, Chu Tianxing was silent for a while before taking out the faded star chart. He used a secret technique to deduce the heavenly cycle. As his true essence poured into the black turtle shell, countless silver dots began to move and the pattern on the turtle shell changed. After about 100 breaths, the dots of light arranged themselves into several silver lines and formed a strange pattern. Chu Tianxing observed for a while, and a gratified expression flashed through his eyes. He nodded and said, Ji Ling is dead now, but the person on the fated star chart is still in the sect. It should be Ji Tianxing. He put away the black turtle shell and quickly left the study. He used his true essence to condense a pair of flaming wings and flew as fast as lightning towards the Great Peace Palace. Whoosh! Chu Tianxing landed at the entrance of the Great Peace Palace and told the mute sword slave his intentions. After the mute sword slave entered the Great Peace Palace to report, Chu Tianxing led him into the depths of the palace. When Chu Tianxing entered the third courtyard, Xiang Wuji was holding a white jade water bottle and watering the spirit herbs in the nursery. After the mute sword slave left, Chu Tianxing bowed to Xiang Wuji and reported, "Martial uncle, disciple has something to report. We found the person who truly defies fate." Xiang Wuji slowly watered the plants and put the white jade water bottle into his black thumb ring before leading Chu Tianxing into the room. "Let's go inside and talk." Chu Tian followed Xiang Wuji into the room. After Xiang Wuji sat down, he said with a solemn expression, "Martial uncle, the person we're looking for is the new disciple of the outer sect's storm courtyard, Ji Tianxing." "Ji Tianxing? That little bastard?" Xiang Wuji raised his eyebrows and revealed a strange smile. It's actually him? How interesting." Seeing his strange expression, Chu Tianxing revealed a puzzled look. "Martial uncle, do you know him?" Xiang Wuji nodded, his smile slightly mocking. "That kid made a mistake before and was punished to sweep the floor of Great Peace Palace for half a month." Chu Tianxing suddenly understood. "So that's how it is." Xiang Wuji thought for a moment and asked, "Since you're sure that the person you're looking for is him, what are you going to do?" Chu Tian said with a solemn expression, "Although Ji Tianxing is the person we are looking for, his Xian sword blood vein was taken away by Ji Ling. I wonder how much of the Xian sword blood vein he still has left? I'm not sure if he can open the 9 dragon trapping demon formation, so I won't easily bring him into the underground cavern and try to open the formation. I've decided to secretly observe him and see if he's a promising talent and if he's loyal to the sect. In addition, the star chart indicates that the person is him. Even if he can't open the formation, it's very likely that he'll become a pillar of the sect. He's too weak right now, so I've decided to secretly test and nurture him. When he's strong enough, I'll bring him into the underground cavern and try to open the formation." Xiang Wuji frowned and thought for a moment, then nodded. This is a relatively safe method. This old man agrees. However, you have to pay more attention to the underground cavern. Don't let that unparalleled demon break the seal." Chu Tianxing said seriously, "Of course, I'll pay more attention. There definitely won't be any problems." "That's good." Xiang Wuji nodded and waved his hand. "If there's nothing else, you can leave." Chu Tianxing bowed before leaving the Great Peace Palace with peace of mind. After he left, the room fell into silence. Xiang Wuji's smile disappeared. He frowned and murmured, "That little brat has the bloodline of Xian Jian. In that case, he might be the descendant of Qiu Yu's disciple. My most important disciple left, but after 100 years, her great-grandson came to this old man's side. The heavens really care for this old man." Thinking of this, a mocking smile appeared on his wrinkled old face. Damn brat. It seems this old man has to think of a way to keep him in Great Peace Palace. It'll make it easier for this old man to teach him." The first light of dawn shone into the room through the window. Ji Tianxing ended his seclusion and walked out of the secret room. After last night's comprehension and cultivation, he had grasped the basics of the shadowless step. The cultivation of the shadowless step was divided into beginner, small success, expert, great success, and perfect. Even though he had just started and hadn't completely grasped the shadowless step, he had already tested it. But he had already tested it. After using the shadowless step, his speed was twice as fast as before, and he saved more vital energy. The fact proved that this high profound ranked shadowless step was indeed unique and extremely mysterious. After washing up, Ji Tianxing walked out of the room and went to the mountain peak to find Deacon Du Wu. Today was the 2nd day of the 6th month. He remembered that he had not received his monthly allowance for this month. That was 10 vital energy Dan and 8 ling fruits. It was enough for him to cultivate for a month. In the mortal world, these cultivation resources could be sold for a sky-high price of 10 million taels of silver. Ji Tianxing used half an hour to find Du Wu to receive his monthly allowance. Not long after he returned to the wind cloud courtyard, the bell to gather sounded in the main hall. He hurriedly walked out of the room and rushed to the main hall to gather. Lu Mingyang, who was sweeping the yard, quickly put down the broom and ran into the main hall. Not long after, the 10 disciples had all gathered. Han Xiuxing and Du Wu walked in. Han Xiuxing walked to the front and announced with a solemn expression, "Everyone, a new month has begun. This month, you will be learning Array Dao. The rules are the same as last month. I will teach you the basics of Array Dao, but you have to study and learn more advanced knowledge. At the end of the month, I will still test you. The losers will be punished, and the winners will be rewarded." The faces of the disciples turned solemn. A few of them clenched their fists and secretly decided to work hard and strive to be the winner of the month's test. Ji Tianxing was born in a family of blacksmiths. He had dabbled in Array Dao. Even if he was not an expert, he was still at the entry level. But he knew that with only the entry level of Array Dao, he would not be able to pass the test. He had to work hard. Among the many disciples, only Lu Mingyang's eyes flashed with joy as he secretly rejoiced. This was because he was born in the Chongfeng country's royal family. Since young, he had been taught and taught by the state teacher. He was proficient in Array Dao. These days, he was punished by Han Xiuxing to clean the wind cloud courtyard. Every day, he had to endure the strange looks and mockery of the other disciples. His heart had long been filled with anger. He silently endured it. Today, after hearing that this month's task was Array Dao, he suddenly saw the hope of being able to hold his head high. He gritted his teeth and growled in his heart. "I was punished right after I entered the wind cloud courtyard and was mocked by the other disciples. Now, my chance has finally come. At the end of the month, I must be the winner of the Array Dao test and wipe away my shame." Chapter 144. After Han Xiuxing announced this month's mission, he left the hall with Du Wu. The disciples discussed in the main hall for a while before leaving one after another. After Ji Tianxing left the hall, he left the wind cloud courtyard and headed towards the Great Peace Palace. Even though the 1-month deadline was over, he had been fortunate enough to receive Xiang Wuji's pointers to take first place in the pill refining exam. No matter what, he had to go to the Great Peace Palace and thank Xiang Wuji in person. An hour later, he arrived at the gates of the Great Peace Palace. The mute sword slave saw him come and nodded to him, squeezing out a faint smile. Ji Tianxing returned the greeting and quickly entered the 3rd yard of the Great Peace Palace. Xiang Wuji had recently cultivated another nursery, planting over 10 blue soul grass and other spirit herbs. He was holding a white jade water bottle, watering the herbs in the nursery. He was even humming a little tune, seeming to be in a good mood. Hearing Ji Tianxing's footsteps, he continued to water without turning his head. He said in a mocking tone, You bastard brat, you haven't come to the Great Peace Palace in 3 days. Why have you come today?" This old man thought you were too scared to come and didn't want to sweep the floor for this old man. Ji Tianxing walked to his side and respectfully bowed. He said with a faint smile, "Elder, this junior was fortunate enough to receive your pointers in pill refining and took first place in the month and exam 3 days ago. In these 3 days, this junior has been in closed-door cultivation, so I haven't been able to come visit Elder. Today, I've come to thank Elder in person." Xiang Wuji raised an eyebrow, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. "You still know to thank this old man. Brat, you still have some conscience. However, is your so-called thanks just lip service? Could it be that you, brat, shouldn't show some appreciation?" Appreciation? Ji Tianxing, of course, understood his meaning. He was instantly troubled, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. "Senior, I don't have anything valuable on me. There's nothing that can catch your eye. I'll pay." Xiang Wuji glared at him and scolded with a smile. "What kind of person do you think this old man is? What kind of world has this old man not seen? Why would I ask a junior like you for a gift?" Pausing for a moment, He put on a look of exasperation and said with a straight face, "Since you're a blockhead who doesn't understand, then this old man will say it clearly. If you want to thank this old man, you have to take action. From today onwards, you are this old man's servant. You will be responsible for cleaning this great peace palace." Ji Tianxing froze for a moment, depressed like a bitter gourd. A boy who sweeps the floor? This is too. Senior, why don't I sweep the floor for you for another month? Xiang Wuji curled his lips and laughed sinisterly. You don't like the sound of sweeping the floor? All right, you can be a servant of Great Peace Palace. Handyman? Ji Tianxing waved his hand and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then I'll just be a boy. Anyway, I can see that you're determined to stick to me. Xiang Wuji snorted in exasperation. Oomph. Don't pretend to be obedient after taking advantage. So many disciples are crying and begging to come to Great Peace Palace to sweep the floor. This old man isn't willing. You are now a boy of Great Peace Palace. If you go out, many disciples will be jealous of you. Ji Tianxing was suspicious of his words and muttered in a small voice, If that's the case, then why isn't there a single boy in Great Peace Palace? No one has cleaned it for many years. Weeds are growing everywhere. Xiang Wuji choked and said angrily, What do you know, boy? This old man's Great Peace Palace has the Blue Spirit Great Formation. Those weeds will benefit and grow to the height of a person in 10 days. Ji Tianxing knew that the old man was bragging, but he did not expose him. Otherwise, if he forced the old man into a corner, the one who would be unlucky in the end would be him. Seeing the other not speak, Xiang Wuji's anger subsided. He put away the white jade kettle and turned to walk into the hall. Boy, come with this old man. Ji Tianxing did not know what he wanted to do, so he could only follow him into the hall. There was a sandalwood table in the hall that was filled with all kinds of spirit fruits and pills. Qian Yu and the little black dragon were lying on the table, slowly eating spirit fruits and pills. They looked very satisfied and satisfied. Seeing Ji Tianxing come, Qian Yu's figure flashed and flew to his shoulder. It said excitedly, Old Ji, you're fine? That's great. The little black dragon hurriedly swallowed the spirit fruit in its mouth and flew in front of him to greet him. Old Ji, it's good that you're fine. Ji Tianxing could see that the two of them had become much stronger and their mental states were very good. He could not help but smile and ask, How did you know something happened to me? Qian Yu raised its little head and said proudly, I'm the most well-informed. Nothing can be hidden from me. Ji Tianxing stretched out a finger and flicked its little head. He said exasperatedly, Then why didn't you come to see me when I was imprisoned in the Blackwind Cave? Why didn't you bring me anything to eat? You two heartless fellows. You were enjoying yourselves in the Grand Peace Palace, but you watched me suffer in the Blackwind Cave. The little black dragon immediately stopped talking. With a whoosh, it turned back into the black dragon sword and returned to its scabbard hanging on the wall. Qian Yu rolled its eyes and immediately pointed at Xiang Wuji. Old Ji, it's not that I didn't want to see you. It's that old man who won't let us leave the Grand Peace Palace. Of course, Ji Tianxing did not dare to cause trouble for Xiang Wuji. He could only end this topic. Xiang Wuji reached out and grabbed the black dragon, sword hanging on the wall. He also picked up Qian Yu's tail and handed them over to Ji Tianxing. Brat, your two pets are both gluttons. Last month, they ate more than 1,000 spirit fruits and pills from this old man. Hurry up and take them away. This old man will not keep them. Ji Tianxing was stunned. He thought to himself, this stinky old man is noble and powerful. Who knows how many rare treasures he has? How can he not be able to raise Qian Yu and the little black dragon? Is he just looking for an excuse to return Qian Yu and the little black dragon to me? But Qian Yu and the little black dragon are with me. I don't have that many spirit fruits for them to eat. It's better to let them stay in the Grand Peace Palace. At least they can quickly recover their strength. At this thought, he pretended to be confused and asked, Senior, is this appropriate? Qian Yu and the little black dragon are with me. If other people in the sect find out, I will be breaking the sect rules and will be punished. The two of them will also be expelled from the sect. Xiang Wuji glared at him and scolded, Brat, don't play dumb with me. Don't you just want to leave them here and borrow my treasures to help them recover their strength? Hurry up and take them away. You are a member of the Grand Peace Palace. With this old man protecting you, no one in the sect will dare to cause trouble for you. Ji Tianxing blinked his eyes and thought to himself, why did that stinky old man suddenly become my backer? Chapter 145. Ji Tianxing took the black dragon sword and Qianyu and put them into the 100 treasures pouch. Of course, he also put the dozens of spiritual fruits and dawn left on the table into the pouch. Xiang Wuji saw him do this and frowned, but he didn't say anything. He sat on the chair and drank a few mouthfuls of wine. He asked casually, Kid, what is the Feng Yun Yard learning this month? Ji Tianxing answered honestly, this month, Deacon Han is teaching us arrays. At the end of the month, there will be a test. Arrays? Xiang Wuji was startled, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. He drank from the gourd and thought to himself, Qiu Yu's disciple was the most talented array genius in the house. No one in the entire Tianqian region can compare to him. Ji Tianxing, if this kid is really the descendant of Qiu Yu's disciple, he should be able to inherit some of Qiu Yu's array talents? Thinking about this, Xiang Wuji put down the gourd and asked Ji Tianxing slowly, Kid, you must be a rich young master in the mortal world, right? What does your family do? Ji Tianxing didn't know why he would ask this, but he still answered truthfully, Senior, this junior's family is proficient in forging tools, and this is our profession. Making weapons? Xiang Wuji frowned and muttered to himself, I thought it was a family of arrays. I didn't think it was making weapons. However, making weapons is also related to arrays. With Qiu Yu's array talents, even if he makes weapons, he will be able to create a great family business. He paused for a moment, then asked Ji Tianxing, Kid, have you seen your great-grandmother? Ji Tianxing shook his head and said calmly, Only my father and uncles are still alive. My grandfather passed away a long time ago. I have never seen my great-grandmother. Oh, Xiang Wuji nodded and didn't ask more. He frowned and fell in a deep thought. Back then, my disciple Qiu Yu's talent in array, Dao, stunned the entire Tianqian region. She was my greatest pride. This brat is the descendant of Qiu Yu's disciple. This old man will teach him well and definitely won't let him lose face for Qiu Yu's disciple. After making up his mind, Xiang Wuji got up and walked out of the door. He walked to the center of the courtyard and stood still on the ground paved with blue stone. He waved at Ji Tianxing. Brat, come here. Ji Tianxing didn't know what was going on, so he hurriedly walked into the courtyard and stood in front of him. Xiang Wuji pointed at the limestone floor beneath his feet and asked with a serious expression, Observe the ground carefully and tell this old man what you see. Ji Tianxing looked down at the ground under his feet and observed carefully. The bluestone floor was about 6 meters in radius. At first glance, it looked ordinary. However, after taking a closer look, he noticed that the bluestone slabs were of different sizes and were arranged in different orders and directions. The gaps between the slabs were like lines. They seemed to contain some kind of pattern and formed a strange pattern. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. He suddenly looked up at Xiang Wuji and said with certainty, Elder, if I am not wrong, this should be an array. Xiang Wuji nodded and said calmly, Not bad. You have some eyesight. You can see that this is an array. However, he thought to himself, disciples with ordinary talent in array, Dao, can only see patterns. Only those with great talent can see that this is an array. It seems that this brat has some talent in array Dao. This old man will observe more. He looked at Ji Tianxing calmly and asked, Normally, there are 4 types of arrays. Illusion arrays, trap arrays, killing arrays, and support arrays. Take a closer look. What type of formation is this? If you're not sure, this old man will allow you to use vital energy to investigate. Ji Tianxing nodded and continued to observe the array beneath his feet. He had already learned the basics of array Dao. Of course, he knew that there were 4 types of arrays. Illusion arrays, trap arrays, and killing arrays were needless to say. As for support arrays, they were usually used to aid in cultivation or to nurture medicinal ingredients. For example, the secret room in his room had an energy-gathering array. It was used to gather the energy of heaven and earth to aid in cultivation. This was a support array. After a moment of careful observation, Ji Tianxing had a preliminary answer. He guessed that the array beneath his feet was a support array. However, he did not dare to answer rashly. He pressed his palms against the bluestone slabs on the ground and released his vital energy to further investigate the array. His vital energy surged into the bluestone slabs, and he quickly found that the ground was warm and moist. There was a vast amount of qi of the greenwood. After thinking for a while, he said to Xiang Wuji with certainty, "Elder, from what I see, this array is a support array. It should be used to nurture medicinal ingredients." Xiang Wuji smiled and nodded. "That's right, you're right. This wood spiritual array is indeed used to cultivate medicinal herbs. Since you have some talent in array Dao, then I will test you today." Then he waved his hand and shot out a dark green vital energy beam that surged into the bluestone slabs. The bluestone slabs lit up with green light. The cracks on the bluestone slabs also turned into green lines that emitted a mysterious power. In the blink of an eye, a dark green light barrier appeared. This light barrier was like an inverted bowl that enveloped Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing looked around and found that the scenery around him had changed. The yard had disappeared. He was actually in a dense and lush forest with a radius of 1,000 meters. Below his feet was soft green grass, and all around him were towering trees. He could not see the end of the forest. He could not see the situation outside the forest. He could only look up and see a dark green wall of light above his head. It was obvious that Xiang Wuji had activated the wood's spiritual array and trapped him inside. Just as he was looking around, Xiang Wuji appeared beside him. He stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Kid, you are now inside the wood's spiritual array. If you can break the array and walk out of it, then come see me in the main hall. I will reward you. Otherwise, you can stay here forever and help this old man with the fields and weeds." After that, Xiang Wuji laughed evilly and disappeared into thin air. After he left the wood spiritual array, he walked back to the main hall with his hands behind his back. He lay down on a rattan chair and drank wine leisurely while humming a tune. In a quiet courtyard, there was only a green light shield with a radius of 6 meters. It was the wood spiritual array. From the outside, it looked like the array was only 6 meters wide. Actually, there was another world inside the array. It was very mysterious. Xiang Wuji lifted his wine gourd and drank 2 mouthfuls. Glancing at the green light shield in the yard, he murmured with a smile, Although this wood spiritual array of mine is only a mystic level middle grade array, only mystic realm warriors can successfully break it. If you can break it in a day, then you have inherited Qiu Yu's talent in arrays. I will teach you everything I know. Otherwise, you wouldn't be worth this old man's time." Today, the 6th chapter has arrived. From now on, there will be 6 chapters every day. I hope you can add this book to your bookshelf and vote for it. Thank you. Chapter 146. Ji Tianxing stood in the dense forest and did not act rashly. Although this wood spiritual array was very mysterious, and it was unbelievable that there was a space of 1,000 meters in a small array. But he was sure that the grass under his feet and the towering trees around him were all real and not illusions. Being in this array, he could feel that the air was filled with thick wood spiritual qi, emitting the fragrance of plants. Without a doubt, this was a holy place for recuperation and healing. If a seriously injured person were to heal here, their injuries would recover faster. If a martial artist with spiritual qi were to cultivate here, he would get twice the result with half the effort, and his strength would increase quickly. Ji Tianxing stood in the center of the array and carefully observed for a while. Then he decided to try to break through the array. Although arrays are the means of martial artists, they also need to borrow the power of heaven and earth and follow the principles of yin and yang and the 5 elements. Since the array has an entrance, there must be an exit. I'll go through this forest and walk to the edge of the array to see if I can find the exit. After making up his mind, he began to walk forward. As long as he passed through the dense forest that was 1,000 meters long, he would reach the edge of the wood spiritual array. Tianxing stepped on the soft grass, pushed aside the dense leaves in front of him, and walked straight forward. However, after he took a few steps, the grass and forest behind him changed silently. The grass and towering trees were like living creatures that could move and change their positions on their own. Unfortunately, these changes were too subtle and silent. Tianxing did not notice them. After 15 minutes, he quickly passed through the forest and walked 1,000 meters. Logically speaking, he should have passed through the forest and reached the edge of the array. But this was not the case. He saw that the scene in front of him had not changed at all. It was still the dense forest, and he could not see the end. He was still surrounded by the dense forest, and he was still on the grass in the center of the array, as if he had never left. Tianxing had to stop, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Haha, so it's not just an auxiliary array, but also a maze. This forest is like a maze. If I continue to walk like this, I'm afraid I'll never be able to get out. Looks like I have to think of another way to break it. Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he took out Qianyu and Black Dragon Sword from his 100 Treasures brocade pouch. Qianyu was sleeping in the brocade pouch. When he was pulled out by Tianxing, he grumbled with some dissatisfaction. Old G, next time you come looking for me, let me know first. Isn't it rude of you to drag me out like this? Tianxing just smiled and didn't tease it. I'm in the old man's with spirit formation. This is his test for me. I have to break the formation as soon as possible. Qianyu, I need your help. When Qianyu heard that the old man was testing him, he immediately became interested. Tell me, how can I help you? Tianxing pointed at the dark blue sky above his head. Fly to the highest point in the sky and watch for me from there. This forest with a radius of 1,000 meters is a maze. Help me keep an eye on the changes in the forest. Pay attention and observe carefully. Qianyu immediately understood what he meant. He nodded and flew high up in the sky, overlooking the entire forest from above. After looking around for a moment, he shouted, "Okay, old G, I can clearly observe the whole formation. You can start now." Hearing Qianyu's voice, Tianxing carried the Black Dragon Sword and continued to move deeper into the forest. But this time, when he passed through the forest, every time he passed a towering tree, he would use the Black Dragon Sword to carve a mark on the tree. Soon, a quarter of an hour passed. Tianxing continued to walk for more than 1,000 meters, but he was still trapped in the center of the formation. He was still trapped in the maze and couldn't get out. Even the marks he made on the trees with his sword had mysteriously disappeared. Tianxing had to stop. He waved to Qianyu in the sky and motioned for it to come down. Qianyu flew back in front of him. Before he could ask, it pouted and said, "That stinky old man is too insidious. The formation he set up is a bit strange. Old G, I can see very clearly from the sky. When you walk, the entire forest is constantly changing positions and moving. Although you keep walking, you're always going in circles within 100 meters. If this continues, you won't be able to get out even if you walk for another year." Hearing Qianyu's words, Tianxing didn't feel depressed. Instead, he smiled. "Haha, as expected. It's just as I expected. By the way, Qianyu, you've been observing from the sky for so long. Did you see it carefully?" Qianyu nodded and said, "Of course. Didn't I tell you? My 5 senses are very strong. My vision can reach dozens of miles." The corners of Tianxing's mouth curled up into a smile as he asked, "Then tell me, if the entire forest is moving and changing, what is there that remains unchanged? Something that hasn't changed?" Qianyu suddenly frowned, her big eyes rolling a few times as she carefully tried to recall. After a while, it suddenly thought of something and said, "I remember now. It's a small stream. That stream is hidden in the forest. No one can find it except for me. It's about 150 meters southeast of you. In the last 15 minutes, no matter how the entire forest changed, the stream was always there. It didn't move or change." "Great." Tianxing revealed a joyful expression and said with a smile, "It seems that the key to breaking the formation lies in that small stream. Qianyu, I'll have to trouble you again. You have to help me find that stream." "Okay," Qianyu agreed. It quickly flew up into the sky and looked down at the entire forest. Ji Tianxing lifted his feet and walked towards the southeast, his heart full of anticipation. After he took 10 steps, Qianyu quickly reminded him, "Old Ji, you're off course. 9 more steps to the south." Ji Tianxing smiled faintly and walked south according to its instructions. After dozens of steps, Qianyu reminded him again, "Old Ji, you're off course again. 10 more steps to the east." With the help of Qianyu, Ji Tianxing walked over 1,000 steps and finally arrived at the stream. The stream was only 1 meter wide. It was hidden in the dense forest and grass. If one didn't walk close enough, they wouldn't be able to find it. The stream was cold and clear. No one knew where it came from or where it flowed to. Ji Tianxing followed the stream to the source and whispered, "This is a wood's spiritual array. It gathers the wood's spiritual qi to cultivate the old man's herbs." Although the array is full of spiritual qi, the forest and grass need not only spiritual qi but also water to grow. The array won't produce water out of thin air, so the water in this stream must have flowed in from outside the array. As long as I reach the source of the stream, I'll be able to find the exit. About a quarter of an hour later, Ji Tianxing followed the stream to the edge of the array. In front of him was a clear pool of water. This was where the stream flowed out from. Ji Tianxing put away Qianyu and the black dragon sword into his 100 treasures pouch and jumped into the pool without hesitation. Just as he expected, after he passed through a passage at the bottom of the pool, he swam into an ancient well. Splash! Ji Tianxing floated to the surface of the water. He raised his head and looked up. As expected, he saw the blue sky outside the well. Immediately, a gratified smile appeared on his face. As expected, I broke the wood spiritual array in just 2 hours. The smelly old man definitely didn't expect this, right? Chapter 147. Xiang Wuji was in the main hall, lying on a wrought-tan chair, leisurely drinking wine. Probably because he drank a little too much, his old face was flushed red and his eyes were tightly shut. He looked like he was about to fall asleep. Anyway, that kid needs at least half a day to break the array. This old man will sleep for a while. Xiang Wuji smacked his lips, put the wine gourd into his black thumb ring, and closed his eyes to rest. After a while, he started snoring and fell asleep. At this time, 2 hands reached out from the well in the corner of the yard and climbed out. It was Ji Tianxing. His hair and green robe were wet, and water kept dripping down to his feet. It was noon, and the sun was blazing in the sky, and the air was hot. Ji Tianxing wrung the water off his robe and sleeves, and walked straight to the main hall. Before he entered, he heard snoring coming from the room. The old man is actually asleep? Is he pretending to be asleep? Is he trying to trick me? Ji Tianxing grinned silently and tiptoed into the room. He quietly walked to Xiang Wuji's side, wanted to see if Xiang Wuji was really asleep or just pretending. When he was 5 steps away from Xiang Wuji suddenly opened his eyes and subconsciously waved his hand, sending out a ray of sword light towards Ji Tianxing. The ray of sword light was over a meter long and was extremely sharp and violent. It could even cut through a city wall with one slash. Ji Tianxing's expression changed drastically, and he broke out in cold sweat. He immediately used the shadowless steps and retreated 3 meters away. Even so, the ray of sword light was too fast and had already reached his ear. Luckily, Xiang Wuji had already woken up. After realizing that something was wrong, he stopped in time. That sharp and fierce sword light was hovering right next to Ji Tianxing's ear, only 2 inches away from his neck. If Xiang Wuji had stopped a second later, his head would have been separated from his body, and he would have died on the spot. Hiss! Ji Tianxing was still in shock, and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He said angrily, "Old man, what are you doing? Old man, you don't have to be so cruel to me. You almost chopped my head off." Xiang Wuji moved his finger and quickly retracted the ray of sword light. Only then did he wake up, and he turned to Ji Tianxing. Kid, why are you out? What time is it? How long have I been asleep?" Ji Tianxing said expressionlessly, "It's half of the afternoon." Xiang Wuji immediately stood up with a face full of surprise. He frowned and looked at the sky outside. I just fell asleep for a while, and you've already come out of the wood spirit formation? This is impossible. It's only been 2 hours since you entered the formation. How could you break the formation in 2 hours? Xiang Wuji couldn't believe that someone could break the wood spirit array in 2 hours. In the past 100 years, other than Qiu Yu's disciple, no one else could do it. Now Ji Tianxing did it. How could he not be shocked? Could it be that this kid's array talent is as outstanding as Qiu Yu's disciple? He completely inherited Qiu Yu's talent? Thinking about this, Xiang Wuji's blood boiled, and he was very excited. The way he looked at Ji Tianxing was also filled with excitement and anticipation, as if he had seen a perfect piece of jade. He believed that this perfect piece of jade, after being polished by him, would become a rare treasure. After a while, Xiang Wuji calmed down. He stared at Ji Tianxing and asked seriously, "Kid, tell me, how did you break through the array?" Ji Tianxing didn't hide it and answered honestly, "Your array may be a supporting array, but it has the effect of an illusion array. The forest inside is a maze, and if you don't break it, you can't get out. I found a way to find a small stream and guessed that it was the base of the array. I found the source of the stream and climbed out of the well." Xiang Wuji nodded as he listened, and a rare smile appeared on his old face. Not bad, not bad. Your way of thinking is correct. Ahem, ahem. I said before that I would reward you. Now, I will fulfill my promise." Hearing that there was a reward, Ji Tianxing's anger dissipated. He asked with anticipation, "What reward are you going to give me?" Xiang Wuji looked at him solemnly and said in a serious tone, "This old man has decided to teach you array Dao techniques and nurture you into an array Dao grandmaster." Then, he looked at Ji Tianxing with a smug expression. In his opinion, any disciple who heard these words would be so excited that they would tremble. However, what he expected did not happen. Ji Tianxing stilled and then bowed. "Many thanks for Elder's guidance. Junior is very grateful." Actually, he was muttering inside, I thought that this old man would reward me with some spiritual dan to help me increase my strength." Xiang Wuji's smile disappeared. He asked with a frown, "Stinking brat, what's with your expression? Aren't you excited? I'm going to teach you arrays. That is a blessing that other people can only envy. Are you really not excited at all?" Seeing this, Ji Tianxing could only squeeze out a smile. Junior is grateful to Elder for his kindness. I will never forget it. What a hypocrite. Of course, Xiang Wuji could tell that he was lying and scolded him. "No matter if you are happy or not, I will teach you. In the future, you will stay in Great Peace Palace and don't need to return to Wine Cloud Yard." Ji Tianxing finally remembered that Xiang Wuji's status was very high. If he really wanted to ask Wind Cloud Yard for him, Han Xiaosheng would not dare to refuse. Thinking of this, he hurriedly complimented Xiang Wuji and flattered him a bit. Only then did Xiang Wuji's anger dissipate. Xiang Wuji thought of the previous matter and warned with a serious expression, "Brat, in the future, don't sneak around in Great Peace Palace. Otherwise, if I don't stop one day, you will die an unjust death." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a face full of agreement, "There's a saying in the mortal kingdoms, accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger. I feel the same way now." Xiang Wuji glared at him and scolded, "What do you know? I'm always on guard. Even when I am asleep, I'm always on guard. I have roamed the continent for 200 years. I have traveled through dozens of regions and encountered countless dangers. If I had not been careful, do you think I would have been able to survive until now?" Ji Tianxing came to a realization and said sincerely, "Senior, it seems like you're a powerhouse with a story. When are you going to tell me about your adventures in the world?" Xiang Wuji nodded proudly and said, "Of course. As for telling stories, we will talk about it when we have time. Right now, come with me to the study. I will teach you arrays." Chapter 148. Ji Tianxing followed Xiang Wuji into the study and listened attentively to the teachings of formations. From noon to late at night, for 12 hours, he listened intently to Xiang Wuji's teachings. even though Xiang Wuji said he was going to teach him formations. But formations were not like martial arts that could be taught directly and make someone become a powerful cultivator overnight. The so-called array path absolute art was actually a combination of array path knowledge and experience. It was not something that could be taught in a day or two. Xiang Wuji was not only skilled in martial arts, he was also skilled in alchemy and formations. In his own words, he was an all-round cultivator and ranked in the top 3 in the entire Tianjin zone. Even with Ji Tianxing's talent, it would take him at least 10 years to learn all the formations he had learned in his life. Therefore, Xiang Wuji followed the principle of gradual improvement and taught Ji Tianxing the basics of formations and experience. Since Ji Tianxing already had a foundation in formations, he skipped over the primary level formations and started with the Xian level formations. Ji Tianxing didn't just have a foundation in formations, his talent in formations was not bad. When he listened to Xiang Wuji's teachings, he understood immediately and learned immediately. He could also infer many things from one example. In this way, his 12 hours of study was equivalent to 3 to 5 days of study for an ordinary disciple. This made Xiang Wuji very satisfied, and he found him more and more pleasing to the eye. In the middle of the night, Xiang Wuji went back to his room to rest and stopped teaching. "Kid, it's too late. You don't need to go back to the Feng Yun Yard tonight. Stay in the Graydon Palace." Ji Tianxing nodded to show he understood. But after thinking, he asked, "Elder, which room should I sleep in?" "Sleep?" Xiang Wuji frowned and scolded. "You are so young. You don't work hard and you want to sleep? Look at those lazy people who love to sleep. Which one of them can become a powerful cultivator? They don't have talent and don't work hard. How can they become strong?" Ji Tianxing was reprimanded by him. He lowered his head and whispered, "Don't you like to sleep all day?" Xiang Wuji glared at him and scolded, "You stinking brat. Originally, this old man wanted to let you rest in the pill room, but now, this old man has changed his mind. Scram to the woodshed for this old man and meditate to cultivate." After saying this, Xiang Wuji flung his sleeves and left in a huff. Ji Tianxing rubbed his nose regretfully and murmured with a wry smile, "If I had known that the old man was hot-tempered, why would I have talked back to him? Aren't you just asking for trouble?" With a sigh, he walked to the woodshed with a helpless expression and sat in a corner to cultivate. The next day, Ji Tianxing finished his cultivation early in the morning and went to the well to draw water to wash his face. He just finished washing up when the mute sword servant quickly walked into the courtyard and arrived by his side. Although the sword servant couldn't speak, he made a few hand gestures to him. After half a month of interaction, Ji Tianxing was already familiar with the sword servant and could understand his hand gestures. It turned out that a female disciple had come to the Graydon Palace to look for him and was waiting outside the gate. Ji Tianxing thanked the sword servant and hurriedly walked to the gate of the Graydon Palace. As he walked, he wondered which female disciple would come to the Graydon Palace to look for him early in the morning. "I only know 2 or 3 female disciples in the sect. Who could it be? Cuckoo's injuries haven't recovered yet, so it shouldn't be her. If Xian came to look for me, she would have come in directly and wouldn't wait for me at the gate." After a while, Ji Tianxing walked to the gate. When he was still 100 steps away, he saw a beautiful woman in a long white dress standing outside the gate. She had a graceful figure and was extremely beautiful. Without a doubt, that beautiful woman in white was Yun Yao. Not far behind Yun Yao, her white spirit crane was still standing tall and upright. Ji Tianxing quickly walked to Yun Yao's side and greeted her with a smile. "Eldest senior sister, why are you looking for me so early in the morning? What's the matter?" Yun Yao's expression was a little serious. She nodded at him and went straight to the point. "Junior brother Tianxing, Master has given me an important task today. I need your help." "You need my help?" Ji Tianxing frowned and asked doubtfully. "Eldest senior sister, it's not that I'm looking down on myself, but with my strength, I'm afraid it's very difficult to help you, right?" Yun Yao said calmly. "This has nothing to do with your strength. I'll tell you the details later. Go and pack your things. You'll leave the sect with me later. This task might take a few days. Ji Tianxing saw her serious expression and guessed that the task was difficult. He nodded and said, "Okay, wait for me here for a while. I'll be back soon." In fact, all of his belongings were in the 100 treasures brocade pouch. There was nothing to pack. He returned to the Great Palace again and only reported to Xiang Wuji, in case Xiang Wuji couldn't find him for a few days and got angry again. After a while, he returned to the gate and jumped onto the back of the spirit crane with Yun Yao. The spirit crane let out a clear cry and flapped its wings to fly out of the sect. After leaving the Sky Pillar sect, the spirit crane flew over a large mountain and landed on a grassland 15 miles away from the Sky Pillar sect. Seeing this familiar grassland, Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and thought to himself, "A few days ago, I killed Ji Ling here. Why did eldest senior sister bring me here?" Seeing Yin Yao jump onto the grass, he quickly jumped down as well. He looked around and found a male disciple in a white robe standing in the forest not far away. He was leading a huge silver wolf. He followed Yun Yao into the forest and saw that the male disciple was Bai Wuchen. When Bai Wuchen saw the two of them arrive, he quickly went up to them and said to Yun Yao, "Eldest senior sister, I've borrowed the mysterious treasure pagoda from the second elder." With that, he stretched out his right hand. A golden light flashed in his palm, and a small and exquisite golden pagoda that was about 3 inches tall appeared. Yin Yao nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "There's no time to lose. Let's start the search now." Ji Tianxing was a little puzzled and quickly asked Yin Yao, "Eldest senior sister, what are we searching for?" Yin Yao explained with a serious expression. For days ago, Ji Ling's body disappeared. Sect Master used the star map to find out that it was the demons who took his body. Ji Tianxing's body trembled. From her words, he understood a lot of information. Only now did he know that the Sky Pillar sect master had long known about him killing Ji Ling and had even tacitly approved of it. Moreover, on the day he killed Ji Ling's body was taken away by the demons. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but ask, "Ji Ling is already dead. Why do the demons want his body?" Yun Yao said in a serious tone, "The demon powerhouses have the blood demon secret technique. Even if Ji Ling is dead, they can still extract his soul. Ji Ling once entered the sect's forbidden area and knew the sect's core secrets. If the demon powerhouses interrogate his soul and find out the sect's secrets, it will be troublesome. Therefore, the mission that Sect Master gave us is to find Ji Ling's soul no matter what." Chapter 149. Ever since Ji Tianxing killed Ji Ling, he had put this matter aside. A person's death was like an extinguished lamp. With Ji Ling dead, he thought this matter was over. But after listening to Yun Yao's explanation, he realized that this matter was not over. It even left behind a huge hidden danger. At the same time, he felt a deep sense of fear towards the strange and mysterious demon race. She's already dead, but they can still extract her soul to interrogate her for secrets. The demon race actually has such an evil secret technique. It's unbelievable. Ji Tianxing muttered with a grave expression. Then he asked Yin Yao, "Eldest senior sister, how do we find the whereabouts of Ji Ling's soul?" Without waiting for Yin Yao to explain, Bai Wuchen answered, "Second Elder's mysterious pagoda is an incomparably mysterious treasure. It can use blood as a guide to find the whereabouts of Ji Ling's corpse." He looked at Ji Tianxing with a burning gaze and said in a low voice, "Didn't Ji Ling steal your bloodline? Your bloodline flows in her body, so there's a connection between you and her. Later, I'll activate the mysterious pagoda's array formation. I'll need a drop of your blood as a guide to help the mysterious pagoda search for Ji Ling's whereabouts." Ji Tianxing immediately understood. He nodded and thought to himself, "No wonder eldest senior sister needs my help. This matter has nothing to do with strength, so they just need my blood." He thought for a moment and said to Yun Yao, "Eldest senior sister, since you only need my blood as a guide, then it's easy. I'll give you a drop of my blood, then you can go and carry out the mission. I won't be going with you. I still have to go back and cultivate." Last month, the Wind Cloud Courtyard wanted to take the alchemy test. In the end, he was framed by Ji Ling and was locked in the Dark Wind Cave for more than 10 days. delaying his alchemy. If Xiang Wuji hadn't taught him alchemy, he definitely wouldn't have passed the test and would have been punished. This month, the Wind Cloud Courtyard wanted to take the array formation test again. He didn't want to waste any more time and affect his cultivation. Previously, he was lucky enough to pass the alchemy test and even take first place. But he knew very well that a person couldn't always have good luck. If he did not study formations diligently, it was very likely that he would rank last in this month's formation test. Before Yun Yao could say anything, Bai Wuchen gave her a contemptuous look. I say, Junior Martial Brother Tianxing, you're not afraid of the ferocity of the demon race, so you're deliberately looking for an excuse to evade, right? Ji Tianxing glanced at him expressionlessly and said indifferently, Senior Brother Bai, don't measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. Bai Wuchen's face darkened, and he shouted, Ji Tianxing, who are you calling a villain? He didn't like Ji Tianxing to begin with. It was a rare opportunity for him to insult Ji Tianxing in front of Yun Yao. Of course, he wouldn't miss it. He didn't expect that Ji Tianxing would be so bold as to mock him, an elite genius. How could he not be angry? At this moment, Yun Yao frowned slightly and took a step forward to stand between the two of them. She looked at Ji Tianxing calmly and said sincerely, Junior Martial Brother Tianxing, there's something you don't know. Although the Xianji Pagoda can use your blood as a guide to find traces of Ji Ling's corpse, it can only be located at a certain distance. If it's too far away, the Xianji Pagoda can only point out the direction, but not the exact location. We still need your help in this operation. Come with us. After listening to Yun Yao's explanation, Ji Tianxing finally understood the reason. To be fair, Yun Yao had always treated him well. Since Yun Yao asked for his help, how could he refuse? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and nodded in agreement. If that's the case, I'll go with you. Thank you, Junior Martial Brother Tianxing. Yun Yao nodded slightly and thanked him. Ji Tianxing glanced at Bai Wuchen. Seeing that he was still angry, Ji Tianxing said in a playful tone, Eldest senior sister is very powerful. My essence blood can find traces of Ji Ling's corpse. We are all indispensable to this mission. I'd like to know, Senior Martial Brother Bai, why do you want to go with us? Bai Wuchen had insulted him just now. Of course, he wouldn't take it lying down. He had to return the favor. As expected, Bai Wuchen felt that his dignity was being challenged. He glared at Ji Tianxing angrily. Ji Tianxing, I'm proficient in formations, and I can control the Xianji Pagoda. Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and said mockingly, Oh, eldest senior martial sister, are you not proficient in formations and can't control the Xianji Pagoda? Yun Yao was the #1 genius in the Tianshan region. Not only was she extremely talented in martial arts, but she was also proficient in formations and alchemy. Naturally, she could control the Xianji Pagoda. Bai Wuchen's face turned green. He clenched his fists in anger. He wanted to beat Ji Tianxing up. Seeing this, Yun Yao had to mediate the situation again. Junior Martial Brother Tianxing, Master asked Junior Martial Brother Bai to help me. Ji Tianxing didn't say anything else. He didn't want to put Yun Yao in a difficult position. Bai Wuchen also knew his limits. He didn't want to make things too difficult for Yun Yao. The matter was settled. The three-man team was formed. Although I didn't get along well, Bai Wuchen also took out the Xianji Pagoda. He cleared his mind and activated the formation to activate the pagoda. Then, Ji Tianxing cut his finger with his sword and forced out a drop of blood essence from his heart. He dripped it into the Xianji Pagoda. The Xianji Pagoda, which was emitting a golden light, started to spin rapidly. It released a mysterious and invisible force that surged into the dark sky. Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao stared at the Xianji Pagoda, waiting for the results. After about 100 breaths, the Xianji Pagoda's spinning speed slowed down. Finally, it stopped. Ji Tianxing could see that one of the 8 corners of the golden pagoda was blood red. It was pointing northwest. Obviously, Ji Ling's body should be northwest of the Sky Pillar sect. Go northwest. Let's go. Yun Yao immediately gave the order. She jumped onto the spirit crane with Ji Tianxing and flew into the sky. Bai Wuchen also put away the Xianji pagoda. He rode on the giant silver wolf and rushed northwest at lightning speed. On the way, he looked up at the spirit crane in the sky. On the back of the spirit crane, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao stood side by side. They seemed to be chatting. Seeing this, Bai Wuchen could not help but feel jealous. His face turned cold. Damn Ji Tianxing. A country bumpkin from a small country is getting closer and closer to senior sister. Unfortunately, the sect leader seems to be secretly watching this kid. Otherwise, how could I let him be so close to senior sister? Bai Wuchen already hated Ji Tianxing when they were still in the Royal Azure Dynasty. Of course, it was more accurate to say that he was jealous. However, this kind of jealousy was not enough to make him want to kill. He did think of ways to chase Ji Tianxing out of the sect to prevent Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao from getting closer and closer. However, he did not expect that Ji Tianxing would be secretly watched by the sect leader. This caught him off guard, and he could not carry out his plan for the time being. He could only pray silently in his heart that there would be a chance to fulfill his wish in this mission. Chapter 150. Yun Yao and Ji Tianxing rode on the spirit crane and flew high up in the sky, heading straight for the northwest direction. Ji Tianxing thought of a crucial question. He had some doubts and asked Yun Yao. Eldest senior sister, the devil race took Ji Ling's body. Could they have escaped from the star ancient realm? Yun Yao shook her head and explained, the star ancient realm is an independent space that has always been guarded by our sect. Even the devil race's experts can't enter and leave as they please. In the past 100 years, the devil race's experts have infiltrated our sect several times. Therefore, Master suspects that the devil race has always been hiding in the star ancient realm, waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Ji Tianxing nodded and said in a serious tone, so that's the case. The star ancient realm is rich in spiritual energy and resources. Since the devil race is hiding in the star ancient realm, they don't lack cultivation resources. Moreover, the star ancient realm is vast. If the devil race is hiding there, it will be extremely difficult to find them. Yun Yao continued, the devil race's headquarters is very far from here. After they took Ji Ling's body, they had to use a secret technique to extract Ji Ling's soul within a few days. After 7 days, Ji Ling's soul will dissipate from the world. Therefore, the devil race must be hiding in the star ancient realm to extract Ji Ling's soul as soon as possible. Because of this, Yun Yao was sure that the devil race was hiding somewhere in the star ancient realm. After listening to her explanation, Ji Tianxing's doubts were dispelled, and he didn't ask about it anymore. Very quickly, 2 hours passed. The spirit crane carried Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao for 400 miles and entered a boundless mountain range. Looking down from high up in the sky, one could see towering mountain peaks of different heights closely linked together, and a sea of dark green forests covered the tall mountains. In the mountains and forests, there were many traces of demonic beast activity. From time to time, roars of beasts could be heard from the depths of the mountain range. Ji Tianxing even saw with his own eyes that there was a huge gray eagle circling in the sky above the mountains in the distance. The gray eagle demon beast seemed to have found its prey. It suddenly swooped down from the sky and drilled into the lush mountains. The next moment, the huge gray eagle flew back into the sky with a blood-stained black bear in its mouth. It quickly disappeared into the distance. Ji Tianxing had never seen such a shocking scene before. A vast and boundless aura surged toward him, making him deeply feel the vastness and mysteriousness of the ancient realm of the stars. At this moment, Yun Yao let the spirit crane land on the peak of a mountain. After waiting for a while, Bai Wuchen rode his silver moon wolf to the top of the mountain and stopped in front of them. Junior Bai, use the mysterious pagoda to check again, Yun Yao instructed calmly. Bai Wuchen nodded. He quickly took out the Arcanum Pagoda and activated the pagoda's array. Ji Tianxing also forced out another drop of blood essence and dripped it into the Xianji Pagoda. The octagonal top of the Xianji Pagoda spun rapidly, releasing a dazzling golden light with a hint of blood red. Not long after, the top of the octagonal pagoda gradually stopped spinning. One of the corners was blood red. It was still pointing in the northwest direction, but the direction was slightly off from before. Bai Wuchen carefully observed for a moment. He then used a secret technique to sense the aura of the mysterious pagoda. After sensing the specific result, he said to Yun Yao, "Senior sister, we're closer to the target." The mysterious pagoda's reaction is also clearer. According to my judgment, Jiling's body should be in the northwest direction. It should be around 600 miles away from us. Yin Yao nodded and said in a low voice, "All right, let's not delay any longer. We'll hurry over." After that, Yin Yao and Ji Tianxing jumped onto the spirit crane's back and continued rushing toward the northwest. Bai Wuchen also rode on his silver moon wolf and rushed down the mountain peak like the wind. They hurried over the mountains and ridges. For the next 4 hours, the three of them did not stop. Yin Yao and Ji Tianxing rode on the spirit crane and flew in the sky. Not only was the speed extremely fast, but it was also very safe. Even though the surrounding 800 miles were vast mountains with endless demonic beasts, they did not dare to attack the spirit crane. Bai Wuchen, on the other hand, was unlucky. While riding on his silver moon wolf, he was constantly attacked and chased by groups of demonic beasts. There were a few times when he was surrounded by a group of demonic beasts. He had to fight a bloody battle to break out of the encirclement. However, Bai Wuchen was indeed an elite genius of the Sky Pillar sect. Even though he fought a few times along the way, he was not injured. After 4 hours, Ji Tianxing and the other two also stopped rushing. The spirit crane landed on the peak of a 3,000-meter tall mountain. Yin Yao and Ji Tianxing jumped off the spirit crane's back and stood in the forest on the mountain peak to wait. After a while, Bai Wuchen also rode on his silver moon wolf to the mountain peak and came before the two of them. Bai Wuchen's white robe was already stained with blood. It was a ghastly sight. Of course, this was the blood of demonic beasts. Yin Yao looked at Bai Wuchen and said with a solemn expression, "Junior brother Bai, according to the results of your previous investigation, Jiling's corpse should be around here." Bai Wuchen nodded and took out the mysterious pagoda again. "Eldest senior sister, let me investigate again. This time, I should be able to determine the exact location of the target." After saying that, he activated the formation of the mysterious pagoda and began to investigate. Ji Tianxing frowned slightly. He cut his finger again and forced out a drop of blood essence, dripping it into the mysterious pagoda. The mysterious pagoda spun rapidly, emitting a dazzling golden light. It released an invisible, mysterious energy that surged into the dark sky. After a while, the mysterious pagoda pointed out the direction. Bai Wuchen used a mysterious Dao secret technique to sense it and obtain the specific result. He looked ahead with a burning gaze and pointed at a towering dark green mountain peak. He said solemnly, "Eldest senior sister, Jiling's corpse is in that mountain. Also, I used the mysterious pagoda to sense the aura of the demons. There's more than one demon in that mountain. It's very likely that it's a temporary stronghold of the demons." Yin Yao frowned slightly. After thinking for a while, she said, "To avoid alerting the demons, we'll leave the spirit crane and the silver moon wolf here. We'll sneak into that mountain and search." The spirit crane and the silver moon wolf were too big. Moreover, the demons would sense their aura and easily expose their whereabouts. Leaving the two spirit beasts at the peak of the mountain was, of course, the wisest decision. Bai Wuchen had no objections. After that, Yin Yao led Ji Tianxing and Bai Wuchen toward the mountain at lightning speed. The two mountains did not seem far apart, but there was a huge canyon between them that was dozens of miles away. After a full hour, the three of them entered the towering mountain. The three of them shuttled through the dense forest. Yin Yao and Bai Wuchen used their spiritual senses to search for the aura of the demons. Ji Tianxing had not reached the mystic enlightening realm, so he did not have a spiritual sense. However, he was still observing the surroundings with his sharp eyes, hoping to find some clues. After shuttling through the forest for 15 minutes, he sensed a problem. The entire mountain was dead silent. There were no traces of demon beasts, nor were there any roars. This mountain that seemed to be full of vitality and lush with forest seemed to be emitting a cold aura of death. Today's 5th update has arrived. There's another update at 8 p.m. Please recommend it and add it to your collection. Chapter 151. When Ji Tianxing was locked up in the Dark Wind Cave, he had fought with the black-robed woman of the Demon Clan. He knew how powerful the Demon Clan was. Therefore, when he was searching for clues in the forest, he was always vigilant and did not dare to let his guard down. Not long after, Bai Wuqian suddenly made a new discovery. He lowered his voice and said to Yin Yao, eldest senior sister, according to the Xianji Pagoda's investigation, Jiling's body is very close to us. It's in this mountain. Yin Yao frowned slightly and pondered for a moment. Then, she said in a low voice, Master once said that the Demon Clan is cruel and vicious. They are not tolerated by any race in the world. Therefore, they hide in the depths of the earth to survive until now. If that's the case, it's very likely that the Demon Clan is hiding in this mountain. Bai Wuqian nodded in agreement. Eldest senior sister, your analysis is very reasonable. We must find a way to enter the mountain. I guess the Demon Clan is hiding in the cave. Yin Yao lowered her voice and said, look carefully. See if there's an entrance to the cave. Therefore, the 3 of them continued to search carefully in the forest, looking for a crack or a cave that could lead them into the mountain. About 2 hours later, the 3 of them searched around the mountain. Finally, Ji Tianxing found a dark cave in the forest at the foot of the mountain. The cave was about 2 meters wide and was covered by a cluster of extremely lush thorns. If one did not look closely, one would not be able to find it. Moreover, Ji Tianxing could clearly sense that there was a formation at the entrance of the seemingly ordinary cave. He waved at Yin Yao and Bai Wuqian, who were not far away, and the 2 of them hurried over. After looking around for a while, Bai Wuqian pulled out his sword and slashed all the thorns at the entrance of the cave. The entrance of the cave was clearly exposed in front of the 3 of them. The light in the cave was dim, so they could not see the depth of the cave. Yin Yao frowned and observed for a while. Then, she came to a conclusion. There's a defensive formation at the entrance of the cave. There's a strong aura of the Demon Clan. It should be one of the entrances to the Demon Clan stronghold. Okay, let me try to break the formation. Bai Wuqian put away his sword and walked to the entrance of the cave. He waved his hands and released vital energy to try to break the formation. He spent a quarter of an hour and tried twice, but failed both times. Bai Wuqian was a little embarrassed, so he took out the Xianji Pagoda and used its power to break the formation. The profound secrets treasure pagoda was indeed miraculous, breaking the defensive array formation at the cave entrance very quickly. Shwa! When the formation collapsed, a black fog flashed before their eyes, and the scene at the entrance of the cave immediately changed. The originally pitch-black and rough cave had turned into an ancient black-brown stone door. This stone gate was 3 meters tall, and its frame was engraved with the characters and strange symbols of the demon race. It faintly exuded the chill of blood and death. After you go in, try to hide your aura as much as possible. Don't fight the demons head-on. Remember, our mission is only to retrieve Jiling's soul. Yin Yao instructed with a solemn expression. Then, she pushed open the sturdy and heavy stone door and entered the cave first. Ji Tianxing followed closely behind, while Bai Wuqian walked at the back with his sword in hand. The 3 of them slowed down, held their breaths, and tried their best to hide their aura. They didn't make a single sound. The cave was a little dark and damp. It meandered underground, and there were traces of man-made excavation on both sides of the cave walls. The 3 of them walked along the tunnel for about 100 steps, and the tunnel became as dark as ink. There wasn't a single ray of light. However, Yin Yao's strength was extraordinary. Even in such a dark environment, she could see the situation in front of her clearly. Not long after, there were some forks on both sides of the tunnel, and a few narrow passages extended out. Yin Yao ignored those passages and continued to follow the main path, going deeper into the cave. After about an hour, the three of them had walked for a total of 10 miles, and they were already more than 1,000 meters underground. At this moment, they finally reached the end of the tunnel. The three of them entered a huge and spacious cave. They stopped and hid in a dark corner, silently observing the situation in the cave. This cave was at least 100 meters tall and more than 1,000 meters wide. It wouldn't feel crowded, even if it accommodated thousands of people. Dozens of gemstones were inlaid on the ceiling of the cave, emitting sparkling light. Although it was a little weak, it could still disperse part of the darkness. There were many huge stone sculptures in the middle of the cave. They weren't in the shape of humans, but of demons and gods with 3 heads and 6 arms. At first glance, those stone sculptures of demons and gods all had green faces and fangs under the dim light. They were very ferocious and terrifying. On the walls of the cave, there were many 3-meter-tall stone doors. Behind the doors should be passages or rooms. Each stone door was dark brown, and the door frame and lintel were engraved with demon words and symbols. They looked ancient, mysterious, and evil. The cave was dead silent. There was no movement or sound. It was as if it was shrouded in the aura of death, which made people feel depressed. Yin Yao had the celestial spirit's sacred body bloodline, so she was very sensitive to the aura of other races. This kind of cave occupied by demons was filled with the aura of blood and death. It made her instinctively feel disgusted and resistant. The three of them hid in the dark corner for a while. Yin Yao used the power of her sacred body bloodline and sensed for a long time. Finally, she got the result. She looked at the 6 stone doors around the cave and whispered to Ji Tianxing and Bai Wuchen. Among the 6 stone doors, the aura of demons is thicker in the 2 on the left and the 2 in the middle. There are also signs of activity. There might be demons hiding there. Only the 2 stone doors on the right have the aura of demons, but it is fixed. We have to start searching from those 2 doors. Bai Wuchen secretly sensed the Xian Ji pagoda and analyzed the result. He nodded in agreement and said, "Senior sister is right. I suggest we start searching from the right." Then, the 3 of them whispered to each other and discussed a simple plan. Yin Yao and Ji Tianxing hid in the dark corner and watched for any changes. They supported Bai Wuchen. Bai Wuchen quietly went to the stone door on the far right and silently cracked the array on the door. He had good attainments in array formation. With the help of the Xian Ji pagoda, he quickly cracked the defensive array on the stone door. He pushed open the heavy stone door and went into the passage behind it to investigate for a while. Then, he gestured for Yin Yao and Ji Tianxing to follow him. The 3 of them walked to the end of the passage behind the door and saw a spacious hall. There were piles of bones in the dark hall. Thousands of grayish-white bones were piled up into a small hill. Most of the bones had been stored for many years. They had long rotted and become a pile of bones. At the edge of the white bone hill, there was a relatively intact corpse that had not completely rotted yet, although the corpse was broken and emitted a strong stench. However, Ji Tianxing, Yin Yao, and the other 2 immediately recognized him. That corpse was Jiling's. 6th update. Please join the bookshelf and vote a few recommendation votes. Thank you, everyone.